So welcome this morning to Standards and Assessment. And sorry about the delay. We had some technical issues. So do you see, is Board Member Green on yet?
I don't see her. Do you see
Okay. Okay, as we have two board members that are missing as they come in. We've got one online and that one will be joining us here. As they come in, we'll introduce them. My name is Jenny Earl. I represent District 1. I'm chair of the Standards and Assessment Committee. And we'll turn the time over to our vice chair real quick to introduce herself, and then Vice Chair Wood.
My name's Joanne. Sorry. Is it ready?
Yeah.
Not right. Okay. My name's Joanne Brinton. I'm vice chair. I represent Southern Utah, District 15, and happy to be here. Good morning.
Good morning, Leanne Wood, District 4, South Davis County and North Salt Lake. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a nice full schedule today. We're so excited for that. But we're going to start out. We have one public comment by Lorianne Thorpe. And why don't you come right up? Where's the best place for her to sit?
Yeah, that's the best.
On the far end there? Does it matter which one?
Nope.
Go ahead and take one of those microphones and then just push it when it's green. It's good. Introduce yourself, and then you have 2 minutes. Okay?
Thanks, Chair Earl. My name is Lorianne Thorpe, and I'm the CEO of Prevent Child Abuse Utah. Today, you'll have before you some curriculum that for consideration for passing through to the full board for approval. And I am here to recommend that our materials are fantastic and that we are so thrilled to be able to be in the work of educating families around child sexual abuse and human trafficking and students. And we consider it an honor to be able to have a voice in the schools and teach in a way that is appropriate for students and in complete alignment with statute and rules. So I'm just here if there are any questions later when you get to that on the agenda. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have and hope that you'll go ahead and pass those through today. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. We don't have any others, right? That was it. Okay. We are going to jump right into our agenda today, and we're starting with 2.2, which is our action item for the CTE course standards approval. And if we can have, looks like we got Talia Longhurst and Jonathan Fry coming up. And if you want to just do a little introduction, any back information we need, and then I think there's a handful of amendments that people have, or suggested amendments. So.
Good morning, committee. My name is Talia Longhurst. I'm the Director of Career and Technical Education. With me today is Jonathan Fry, one of my CT coordinators. And then we have a group of our education specialists here for those tricky questions that we can't answer. Thank you for having us today. This is our annual moment with you all to take a look at this year's round of strands and standards to be approved by the board. We have 39 courses today. The way that this works is we have a cycle, a calendar, and we review courses by pathway. You'll learn a little bit later today the definitions for programs and pathways and clusters and courses and all of those things in our study session. But what you're looking at today are courses. Courses are sequenced and put into pathways to really help students build knowledge and skills around very specific career areas. So you have those before you today. We're here to answer questions and to give you any suggestions that you're looking for, and our hope is that you'll approve these standards and take them to full board next month.
Okay. I just have to say that I appreciate you getting those to us early. So we had just a few extra days to look at those. It was very helpful. I'm very grateful for that. So I think how we're going to do this is we're going to start with the first course and the second course and then the third, right? Like we'll go down each one. If someone has a recommended amendment in those courses, those amendments, most of those I think have been sent on to our secretary, Andrea. And so we'll kind of just work through that. We could pass the whole thing at the end. I think we'll be able to get through the whole thing, and let's attempt that. And if not, we can go back and approve individual courses. But I think let's make amendments and then we can pass the whole group. I think that might be the best way to approach it today, instead of just going ones that don't have amendments and passing those. Okay. So the first area is the digital media 1 and 2. And were there any amendments sent in on those? There's one, okay. Okay, so digital media 1. And Board Member Wood, do you want to go ahead and talk about those?
Yeah, I'd actually like some, we're going to change this. I did talk to staff prior to this, and we had some recommendations from a pilot course that they're doing regarding AI. But as we've looked at it closer, what we'd like to do is, I move that an additional standard be added in any of our courses where AI is recommended that talk about responsible use. And it's not prepared yet, so it will have to come to the full board.
Okay.
But we do a general AI strand. So
Okay.
If that's acceptable, I'll figure out how to word a motion, but rather than using the language that's in there right now.
I technically don't think you need a motion. You would just bring the motion to the full board.
Okay.
But just making us aware of it would be, I mean.
Okay,
the
then I'm going
community.
to not move this motion that's been prepared right now and move a motion in full board
Okay.
regarding responsible AI usage.
Okay, and you're working with some of our
Yeah,
staff members?
that was a
to-
recommendation as they
Okay.
looked at the language and realized that it would be better if we had a single separate strand.
Okay, so we'll look forward to seeing that at the
Okay,
full board
thank
meeting.
you.
I think that's probably the best way to proceed. Okay, so next course, get my glasses up here. I got to skim down through the. Okay, so the next one is Business Communications 1. Okay, and this is my recommendation. Okay, let me get on there too.
This is really hard that it's behind us now.
I know. Can,
It's really far.
I can't see it.
that's okay.
Yeah.
We're pretty.
Yeah.
It's to remove at the end of standard 2, let's see, strand
1.
standard 3, is it standard 3? Yeah, standard 3 to remove. Use bias-free language to develop responsible ways of thinking and acting. Bias-free language does not discriminate and therefore includes all audience members in a fair and friendly manner. Anyways, that's my recommendation, is just to strike that. Cultural things are addressed up above. Barriers are addressed up above. All those things that are addressed up above, or at least pieces of those. It's just interesting the way it's to have responsible thinking. I don't know if, anyways, it seems like that's a pretty big ask somehow, to ask someone to tell someone to responsibly think about things. But anyways, that's my motion. Any discussion to that? Okay. I maybe should have turned it over to you. Maybe if it's my motions, I got to turn it over to you. So we'll do that on the next one. So,
I
okay.
just need it somewhere so I can read what the motions are. Is there a way
Yeah.
to share so that we see? Yeah, could that be enlarged so we can read it? I don't know from back there. It's so far. I guess I can just.
Jerry, if there's
Oh.
any way to bring us a TV, I'll go ask him.
Okay. Not like we don't have enough screens,
I
right?
know, yeah, they're just. I mean, in that one, yeah.
That's okay. We'll
I can turn it.
so yeah, go ahead and if you want to read that, if you can do that.
Okay.
You want to slide it over a little bit, Andrew?
Okay. The motion, let's see, new wording, is it?
No, we're just striking.
Okay, we're striking use by, do I read that?
Yeah, just
That's
read that.
okay. We're going to strike use bias-free language to develop responsible ways of thinking and acting. Bias-free language does not discriminate and therefore includes all audience members in a fair and friendly manner.
Okay, I just ask for a vote.
Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That passes 3-3, right? 3 in favor.
3 in favor.
And 2 absence, right?
absent.
So, okay, we'll go to the next one. Okay, so,
That might be the only one from communications. The other ones are from leadership, business.
okay,
Business
okay.
communication two.
There's a communication.
Yeah, there is one here. Okay, so I'll read it. My amendment would be to strike, this is under Strand 5, Standard 1 in Business Communication 2. And under Standard 1, this has to do with evaluating credible sources. So where it's checking source for bias, I would put checking sources for credible and accurate information. That would be my amendment.
Okay, so there's an amendment by Member Earl to read, Strand 5, Standard 1, use basic evaluation techniques to find and use a variety of credible and reliable sources of information, date of publication, check the sources of the information, check sources for credible and accurate information, determine the motives of the publication, such as political, commercial, educational, or informational, verify AI sources to ensure they do not produce hallucinations, misleading or incorrect results when using AI tools. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Then you read off the vote.
Okay, and that was unanimous, 2 are absent.
And then the next one.
And then the next motion would be to amend Strand 5, performance skills. Business leadership, Business Leadership 1, Standard 5, performance skills.
Okay, and this is parlay, right? Maybe we want parliamentary procedures, is that correct? Okay, although it did sound like a lot of fun to have a class that was on.
We often call it Parley Pro.
Okay. I just didn't know if it was pirate code or something, so, that's why I was like, oh, cool, this should be fun. Anyways, just if we can update that, just so it's clear what that is. So striking parlay and putting in parliamentary procedures.
Okay, so the motion would be to amend Strand 5 performance skills to read Strand 5 performance standard parliamentary procedure. Is that really what it should say?
Oh, don't
Because we don't
don't
need-
read the pirate code
Yeah.
part.
Just strike parlay and put in parliamentary. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So that passes 3 in favor, 2 absent.
Okay.
And then there is a motion to amend Business Leadership 1, Strand 7 by Member Earl. Do you
Yeah,
want
let
to?
me read through this one. I'll have to put my glasses on for it, though. And then if there's any feedback on this one, if staff had feedback, I don't. Okay, so it would be Strand 7, so leadership, Strand 7. Students will understand systemic process for growing employee talent and retention within businesses. Standard 1, discuss how a leader can support employees by creating effective onboarding processes to improve employee time and productivity, develop strategies for aligning an organization's goals and employee work, goals and employee work, analyzing skill gap. That kind of needs to maybe be fixed there somewhere. And needed professional development. Standard 2, describe strategies that build employee engagement and organizational growth, organizational culture, reducing turnover, retention of talent. So
Is this supposed to be
yeah, I wondered,
I think they're supposed to be a separate sentence.
that's what I'm realizing here, even the organizational growth, reducing turnover and retention of talent, that falls underneath there, like the bullet point pieces.
And up there, that previous sentence, that needs a little work, yes.
Let's see,
Developing?
creating effective onboarding, I think it's
that a
discussed, so
bullet?
that's one, and then the developing strategies for aligning organizational goals and employee work, yes, that's 2, and then analyzing skill gaps and needed professional development, so it's kind of like 3
Okay.
bullets under there, yeah.
All right.
And then So standard, down at the bottom there, we have standard 2, and then that was the previous standard 2, so it'd be standard 3.
This one becomes standard.
No, that's standard 2. Go down to this one with cover the following acts, that's standard 3.
Like that.
That's it. So standard 3 would be cover the following acts that were created to ensure equal employment opportunity, ADA, ADEA, and Equal Pay Act. And then the performance skill would be evaluate 3 organization plans designed to reduce turnover and retain talent in an oral report. I guess present in an oral report, sorry.
Evaluate and 3 organization plans?
Evaluate 3, I think it's just meant to be evaluate 3 organization plans designed to reduce turnover and retain talent by something about it being an oral report. I don't know, that doesn't come out right. And then the next one would be research onboarding processes from 3 organizations and present the information in an oral report. So it'd be similar to the top one. They could pick between one or the other. So those are 2 bullet points again under the performance skill. And then I'd be interested in if staff have any recommendations.
That doesn't read, let's see. Evaluate 3 organization plans.
Hi, Rachel Rout, Business Finance and Marketing Specialist for CTE. I like the majority of it. I think is a great addition to this course. I would suggest that we add your strand and make it strand 7, and then keep the one on the career pathway and make it strand 8 versus replacing, so that they have the next step course in talking about careers that come from this.
Say that one more time. I'm sorry.
So the suggestion was to remove and replace strand
Yeah.
7. I would suggest we insert this into the strand 7 spot and push strand 8. Keep the career pathway strand.
But Rachel, I'm not seeing career pathways in that original wording.
Right.
Look at the original wording column.
Let me see this. My documentation shows business pathway for strand 7. So what is
It's
it?
page 41 if you're following along. Yeah.
Do you see what I mean? Is this another? Yeah.
Hang on for 1 second, please.
See what I mean? And I don't have access to the G drive to check it.
I've got it right here.
Is Emily on? Is Emily on?
Is she on the Zoom?
No, this is so what we have, Rachel, is what's on the board. That is strand 7.
Yeah, go ahead.
So can we scroll up just a second?
Have you checked all of yours?
When I was writing the test, we found
Andrea, can you scroll up just a second to the top of this? Okay, stop. Yep. I just have a question on the creating effective onboarding processes to improve employee time and productivity. If you're bringing them on board, you don't actually know what their time or productivity is yet. So the timing of that process doesn't make sense to me.
Could I just throw something out? So we're comparing the version that we sent you versus the version that was intended to be sent, and they are not the same.
Oh.
So my recommendation at this moment would be that we pull the course, and we can either have a version ready for you for full board of the real information, which does not include this entire strand, or we can pull it and just bring it back to you next year, whichever you prefer.
Do you want it next month or do you want it before the board? Yeah. Before the board? Yeah, we'll just pull it and you bring it to the board.
To full board.
Yep.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay,
Our
so
apologies.
we'll just make a motion. I'll make that motion that just the business. what is it?
Leadership 1.
Business Leadership 1 strand is
Emily said she's in the waiting room. Somebody let her in.
pulled and brought to the full, the revisions are brought to the full board for consideration. Yeah, I'm good with that.
Is that Andrea? Emily's in the waiting room.
Emily's in the waiting room. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that, did we get Emily in yet? That would be 4 in favor, 1 absent still. And then, okay,
Let me see if I can,
all right.
I wonder if she's in a different, one of the other committees' waiting rooms.
Have her double check. All right, we're just trying to help a board member get in, so. Okay, let's go down to the next one.
I got it.
Okay,
Oh.
she's here, she said.
Andrea, double duty.
Okay.
That's all right. Okay, so the next one is construction trades. Okay, there, I think you're right.
Do you have one in business leadership too?
Okay, we have one in business leadership too, if we can. Okay, good. Welcome, Board Member Green. Is it, do we have it? Is it on here? Okay. Okay, we've got to just go back up a little bit, Andrea. Did we? Is that it right there? Okay.
Okay. I move that on Business Leadership 2, Strand 2, in the description that we add the words "and ethical." So it reads, students will understand and implement strategies that create a positive and ethical culture. And then under Standard 2, create culture, add a number 4 that reads, identify and address common ethical issues that arise for individuals, managers, and organizations.
Okay. Is there any discussion to this amendment? Okay, all those in favor? Oh, yeah. Yeah, go ahead, Board Member Green, we can hear you. Okay, thank you. All right, all those in favor, let me go ahead and read it again. It would be under Business Leadership 2, Strand 2, Standard 2, creating a positive culture. Students will understand and implement strategies that create a positive and ethical culture. We're adding "and ethical." And then at the end of that standard, we're adding a number 4 that says, identify and address common ethical issues that arise from individuals, managers, and organizations. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That passes unanimously. We'll go to the next one, which I think Business Leadership 2, just, this one's, we have it duplicated, change management twice. Is Is that accurate? Okay, I just want to make sure that there was maybe an and or a colon or something. So the recommendation is on business leadership 2, in the introduction to remove change management, it's listed twice. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that passes unanimously. And what's the next one?
Construction trades.
Okay, construction trades, and Joanne, do you want to, is that yours?
Yes.
Go ahead and walk us through that.
Okay, so on the construction trades, I appreciate all the member feedback that I got from the committee, and I think we got this to a better place. Looking to replace in strand 4, the foundation, to read sustainable design, development, and construction. And do I just read what's being changed, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And then in standard 2, instead of just sustainability, we're crossing that out and adding efficiency and building certificates. In standard 3, analyzing the full resource and financial life cycle of various energy sources, considering initial cost, production efficiency, intermittency, end-of-life management of non-recyclable materials, in parentheses, example, wind turbine blades, and necessary backup systems. And then underneath, where we're exploring various sustainable energy sources, we are adding coal and nuclear. Standard 4, we are crossing out sustainable and adding proven energy efficient building practices. And those are the changes.
Okay, do you want to speak to those at all?
I conferred with my representative, who is in the energy field and an expert on that. So looking at really the intermittency and long-term reliability, I thought we needed to make sure we had coal in there, as that backs up the power for all the other sources. And but anyway, I appreciate all the feedback. I think, does the committee or the staff have anything you want to weigh in with?
I think the changes that you've proposed are definitely workable. I think our only question really is around the financial component of it and how we're going to talk to students about that. Joseph, do you want to add anything? Where are you? Come on up.
Hello, my name is Joseph Mitchell. I am the specialist over construction and structural pathways. Like was said, our only question is kind of around that financial piece and why that seems to be a focus. So maybe a little clarification on that would be.
Well, and maybe that doesn't need to be in there where this is for construction. That might be more appropriate when it's an energy, in more of just the energy arena. So I'm happy to take that out if that causes something that unintended consequences that don't need to be there for the standard.
Yeah, that would probably be preferred. If we can remove the financial piece, that would be a little bit easier for.
Can I ask on the financial piece, because I kind of like it. So let me just throw in why I liked
Okay.
it, and then if we can maybe we can go back and forth and find a
Okay.
balance. The reason why I liked it is because there is some sustainable resources that are expensive, right? And so I guess being able to weigh out the cost of the resources you're going to use for building is an important part of construction, as much as whether it lasts a long time or that kind of thing. So if there's a way to work some of that in somehow, I'd like at least a piece of it. If it's too weighted here, that's one thing, right? Maybe it's the teaching of it is going to be too time consuming, but I think taking into consideration the costs of a fully glass building versus do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I don't know if yeah, go ahead.
Well, we left in number 5, which said discuss how sustainability regulations impact the cost of various building structures. So there is a cost element to number 5. Do we need the cost element in, is it 3 also?
What if it were, so go back just up a little bit.
It's in front of us now.
Oh, kinda.
Magic.
Yeah, if it were a little bigger, that would be good on that one. Okay, so what if we left in there, analyze the full, or go down just as like one line?
Down a little bit.
We owe you lunch, Andrea. This is, okay, so what if it's analyzed the resources and financial, I don't know if life cycle. Let me think for just a minute here. Considering finance. What was the original? So that explore various energy sources. And maybe it's, I'm just looking back at the original one, maybe it's as simple as explore various sustainable energy sources, taking into consideration cost and I don't know, like the usability of the product. Is there something there that we could pull over that would, using the original one?
I'm
and
looking
then-
at what's following it, and I feel like initial cost, production efficiency, intermittency, end-of-life management, don't those things, that is analyzing the life cycle. But I think as we're preparing and training construction students to be in the construction industry, it is good to have an awareness of all of this, but where is a good balance so that they're introduced to it and that they're taught to weigh pros and cons, benefits, costs, life cycles. I do think we want this.
Yeah. Go ahead, Board Member Green. So I wonder if we just had explore various sustainable energy or sources.
So if
Yeah.
I'm gathering this right, so we're talking about building, we're talking about now it's how we are powering these buildings, right? And so I think we're getting a little too complex with this. I think it's just to give students an overview that depending on where you live, depending on where you're building, there could be a lot of different energy sources that are going to be powering your building. And on the strand before, they're learning about all of the certificates, the sustainability certificates that they can get or that buildings can get based on how they determine they want to build that building. So if I'm a contractor and I'm building a building and the person says, I don't care how much it costs to run this building, they're not going to be really concerned about sustainability certificates. They're just going to be wanting to build a building. However, that person who is asking them to contract to build a building is going to goes. And so I think we're getting a little too complex with this when really it's just to help students understand the different ways, energy sources that power buildings. And so I mean, I prefer just explore various sustainable energy sources, and I think that the list, and even with the additions, are great. But cutting the rest would be sort of where I'd go, just so that, because it feels like, based on the course and based on the time and length of the course, it's just getting into a lot of details that I don't think the students need to know as much. A lot of this information, we've talked about it. We've had a lot of standards. Jenny, Emily, and I have gone through standards when it comes to like energy and geology, and we've done a bunch of conversations in different courses about how different energy sources, but it feels like this one isn't, we don't need to go into so much detail when it's just talking about how the building is powered. I also don't love the wind turbine blades being called out, because it's more not about what is the best energy source, it's just there are lots of energy sources, and that feels a little talking pointy, or I don't know, a little political for me.
What if it were, and I'm going to throw something out here. So if you want to put it to the side or whatever, and then we can maybe see if it works. Maybe if the introduction said explore energy sources, including consideration of resources. Resources for what? Why are we putting resources in there? Resources and financial cost would be, I don't know, does that make any sense?
Is that the end of the sentence, so the rest of the stuff isn't here?
Yeah. Yep, it would simplify it down so that the rest of that's not there, and then it would list the others out. So then you are still talking, it could be broader if a teacher has time, or it could be narrowly scoped, the resources associated with it, as well as the financial costs, but it could be broad or narrow depending on the time and availability. Does that feel right? You have other recommendations on it?
Well, I was just going to point out to Board Member Reel's point, this is our basic foundation introductory level course,
Yeah.
and that's really all it's designed to be. They will build on it should they continue down this pathway, but this is the basic foundational course.
Math team, you're not on yet. Okay, does that work? Reading that, does that feel like it staff, does that,
No,
do you have
yeah.
any recommendation?
No, that
Okay.
sounds great. Thank you.
All right, Joanne, do you
Could-
feel?
Could we
Yeah,
add
go ahead.
available
That's good.
resources
Yeah, we could put
So-
available with the resources,
Right before resources?
up above? Yeah, so
because that would
it's-
speak to an area, right?
Yeah, so you're looking at, maybe in the middle of Alaska in the winter, you're not going to be doing solar.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, you wanted to add available in there?
I could put it before resources. Is that
Yes,
where you want it?
yes.
Okay.
Are there any other, Board Member Green, do you have additional discussion to this? Or are you? Okay, let's go back, go
Yeah,
ahead.
can we just go through, can we just vote on
We're going
each
to go, you want to
one?
do each one separate?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah,
That'd
we
be
can do
great.
that. Let's go back up to the top of this one. We'll vote on each one as we go down.
That's it.
Yeah,
At
so
the
go,
very top?
yeah, go up to, because we started right here. Okay, so we're going to go through each one of these little amendment sections separate, so we can have separate votes on them. So the first vote would be on Construction Trades Foundation, Strand 4. Okay, it would read, Sustainable Design, Development, and Construction is the language replacing, I'm trying to remember what it's replacing there. Okay, replacing student sustainability. Students will explore concepts, certifications, practices, and sustainable construction. So it would be sustainable design, development, and construction is what we're replacing it with. Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Okay, so that's unanimous. We're going to go down to the next one, which is under same course, Construction Trades Foundation, Standard 2. Recognize common, sustainability stricken efficiency and building certificates. So recognize common efficiency and building certificates and discuss the benefits and drawbacks of each.
I have a question on this one.
Okay.
Or I just want to make sure that we're using the common language of what their things are called in the industry. So if they're called sustainability certificates, then I think we should stick with sustainability certificates. because that's what when they are working, they're going to be like, oh, that building has a sustainability, the LEED sustainability certificate. They have the Energy Star sustainability certificate. I just want to make sure we're using the language that the industry uses, and if they use sustainability certificates, then I think we should stick with that. Do they use that, I guess, is the question.
That is correct. That is the terminology that is used.
Okay. So I think we should keep it as is, so I'll be voting no on this one.
Okay. Any other comments on this one? Okay, we're gonna go ahead and take a vote. So on this one, it's recognize common. Oh.
I would just want to ask, will it cause confusion? Is this going to, in the class and with the certificates, because to do that?
Yeah, if we were to strike sustainability, it would, like was mentioned, that is the industry term. So students enter the industry, that would be something confusing to them as they run against these different things. So
I see, I'm sorry, I'm looking these up. That's why I'm, right, green energy is one, I don't see, I mean, sustainability is kind of in there for LEED. That's why I was looking it up. Energy Star talks about energy efficiency. I'm not sure, I'm sure it's in there, saving energy. I don't think, it's just not on the front page.
The front page of what?
I'm looking at it, Energy Star,
Oh, okay. Well,
Right,
but
right.
like
the front page of LEEDs.
when you talk about
So-
buildings, like they get like I work every day in a LEED certified building, state of Utah building, and at Salt Lake Community College, and it's a literal little cute certificate plaque that the building gets on the outside to prove that it is following all of the requirements to make it LEED certified. So I see it every day, and I pass it in a way that like that's what they call them sustainability certificates, because there are different types, and each building, if they follow those certain requirements, get the little cute certificate on the building.
Member Woods just pulling up LEED thing, and it looks like they use energy efficient to grade things
Yeah.
as well.
I mean,
Energy efficient
technically, it should be the
certificates.
same. Am I right in saying that? Like, energy efficient should be sustainability. Am I, no? I mean, we use
Yes, it is.
sustainability in the standard here, but I guess the idea is to,
To be energy efficient. is
energy
the idea-
efficient.
Idea.
so. Yeah, it would be an amendment to what's there. So recognize common. So it would be a substitute. Sorry. Does it need to be efficient instead of efficiency, do you think?
Yeah, which one is it?
Energy efficient certificates.
And then would you continue with and discuss the benefits and drawbacks of each with the bullet list?
Yeah, I would think so. Okay. Additional discussion to that at all? Yeah.
Do you have concerns with that direction? Okay, you can make it work.
Okay. Okay. All right, so the substitute motion, I'm going to take it as a sub, is that right? Because it's replacing the whole motion before. So, is to, and this is from Board Member Green, is to recognize common building and energy efficient certificates and discuss the benefits and drawbacks of each. Okay, all those in favor? Aye. All those opposed?
No.
That's 1 no and 4 in support. Board Member Rails a no. And next, next motion. What do we have for the next motion?
Standard 3.
Oh, yeah, that's right. We got to go through each one. My apologies. Yep, that's right. So we've got to go down to the next standard.
I thought we already voted on 3.
You didn't vote.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so the next standard would be, this is under the same area, and it would be, standard 3 would be explore energy sources, including consideration of available resources and financial costs. So it would substitute that heading that was previously there. Any additional? Oh, go ahead. Okay, thank you. Any additional comments? Okay, so under standard 3, it would read, explore energy sources, including consideration of available resources and financial costs. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, Board Member Green is in opposition, and there's 4 yeses for that motion. Okay. And then we would add,
You want to add?
yes.
Do this as a separate motion with the coal and nuclear?
Yes, we'll do that separately. At that same strand, we would be adding, for other energy resources, we would be adding in coal and, what was it?
Nuclear.
Coal and nuclear power. Any additional discussion related to this one? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Okay, I think that was unanimous. Okay, and then we have, I think, one more in this area. So standard 4, explore various proven energy efficient building practices and the impact on the quality of human life. And this would be striking sustainable and putting in proven. Any discussion to this particular motion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
No.
Okay, that was 4 in favor, 1 opposed, Board Member Green in opposition. And did that cover? Oh, I'm sorry, Board Member Rail, my apologies. Yes, you were. Thank you. Well, I heard it the right way, I just said the wrong name, so. Okay, we're to introduction to drones. And it looks like Board Member Brinton, you have an amendment there. Oh, thank you. Thanks for coming up. Thanks.
Yes, my amendment would be to reword that to say explain proper methods of battery disposal instead of explain battery disposal in terms of global awareness.
Okay, any discussion to that amendment?
I think it's more clear that we just want safe methods. We want, we want to follow safe disposal methods and teach them that.
Okay, all those in, let me read it again. So it's under Introduction to Drones, Standard 3. The introduction would read, explain proper methods of battery disposal. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All those opposed? Okay, that passes unanimously. And then Board Member Wood?
No worries.
Oh, this is that N one. Are there any additional amendments that anyone has? Okay, so I'm looking for a motion to pass these full standards forward to the board.
Okay, I will make a motion to pass, oh, that's right.
There, yep, as amended.
I recommend that the committee approve the CTE course standards, draft 1, and as amended, and send to the board for approval.
Okay, any additional discussion to these standards? Okay, the motion before the committee is that the committee approve the CTE course standards draft 1 as amended and send to the full board for approval. All those in favor? Aye. That passes unanimously. And we should do a little happy dance. So, thank you, staff, for looking at those and for taking things into consideration. So, okay. We will move to our next item, which is our 2.3 is child sex abuse and human trafficking instructional materials approval. And we're going to let Mindy Elliott and Tanya Albornoz introduce themselves, who they are, and then we'll work ourselves into each one of these particular items. So,
Good morning, board members. I'm Tanya Albornoz, the coordinator for prevention. And I have with me Mindy Elliott. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Good morning. My name is Mindy Elliott. I'm the Child Sexual Abuse and Human Trafficking Prevention Specialist.
And we're here today because twice a year we have child sex abuse and human trafficking prevention materials come before the board for approval. Just by quick way of reminding you, this is required by Utah Code 53G-9-207. And we also have R277-630 that outlines this process and how we do this. There are 6 different types of instructional materials that can come before us. One for adult serving youth, one for parents and guardians, and one for elementary students. And that can be either for child sex abuse or for human trafficking prevention, or both. And so today we have 13 different sets of material that have been submitted to us for approval. And so we're putting those before you today, and we've prepared a document with all of those that we can follow as we go along. Before we get going today, we've had some questions come to us from board members and from some of these organizations that have reached out to us with some questions. And so we had a conversation with Assistant Attorney General Doan, and she's gonna provide some comment on some of those.
okay, go ahead.
Good morning. Good morning, board members. Angela Doan, Assistant Attorney General. So before you get into the conversation, I wanted to just help streamline some of your discussions today. I was asked to look back at your June special session and then the August board meeting, because in the June special session, the committee had a lot of recommendations and amendments related to the instructional materials. And so at that time during the committee, what the committee had done was make recommendations that materials would go forward to the full board based upon, with a caveat that it would be amended. And then when it went to the full board in August, it was, there was some questions about whether or not the organizations had indeed made the amendments. So staff members had reached out to organizations, and organizations did submit changes, and those changes were then documented and submitted to the full board for review. So I think there was a lot of confusion there about which organizations had done it, if all the changes that we requested were made. So for today's discussion, what I wanted to recommend was that the board, your committee can still go forward and make those recommendations that these changes be made. But I would say that direct staff, your motion would be to direct staff to go back and have those conversations with organizations, and then call for not a special session or have a specific deadline or a date where you as a committee can verify those changes were made. Organizations can then choose to make the amendment when staff members go back to them, or they can choose a decline to make those changes, and then they could give a reason to staff members, and they can report back why they chose not to make those changes. And as a committee, you can still choose, we would still forward it to the board with those amendments, or choose not to forward it to the board without amendments, because it could be that it doesn't make a big impact, and it doesn't, you ultimately would still forward it to the board for the board to make a decision as to whether or not you would approve it. The full board would approve it. But I would say that for clarity's sake, it would come back to the committee so that the committee knows whether or not those changes were made. So that's
So are
the
you
first
suggesting
piece.
we have another committee meeting before the next month? Because when do these, if these were going to get approved, do we have a deadline, or do they just come back to the committee next month? Help me with deadlines.
We do not have a specific deadline that they have to.
Okay,
We
so-
do have one organization whose approval ends, because as you recall, they have a 3-year where they have to come back for reapproval. So we have one organization whose 3 years is up in December. So we would have to discuss providing them with a provisional extension to that approval until we can come back to the full board.
Okay, so committee, just to keep that in mind. We can either, when we get done, you can decide, do we want to separate our meeting to review any recommendations or considerations, or do we want to just hold it till next month? So, okay, so just when at the end, I think we can make that decision. Is that okay?
Yes,
I think
correct,
that's a
Chair.
good way forward, so there's not confusion. I think, appreciate that. So, okay.
Yes, Chair. So yeah, you can make the decision to just bring it back to committee for Standards and Assessments Committee again in December.
Or we could but we could
Or
also have a special
yes.
meeting in November if we needed to.
Correct.
Okay.
I know November is quite a busy month, so.
It is, and we're already, good week into it, right?
Yes,
A week
and then
down.
the second issue that was brought to my attention was that a few that organizations were reaching out to staff members, that some board members had reached out to them related to some of the materials that had been submitted. Some board members had some clarifying questions. They had some recommendations for changes to the instructional materials. And I would just want to make a suggestion that those private phone calls or those offline phone calls are not made, and those conversations are not made at all, because although we're not subject to OPMA, our bylaws here and for committees is that the work is done publicly. So any conversation or any recommendations or questions that you might have related to the instructional material should be done at the committee, and then we could have the staff share that back with those organizations. So the organizations, they could be tuning in, they could be watching, or they could be reaching out to staff members for those changes. One of those reasons is that we just want to make sure that it doesn't have a view of like conflict of interest, that there's a thumbing of a scale for one organization to be approved or disapproved. So that's just the other recommendation I have for today.
Okay, thank you. Okay, let's go start at the top. So we'll be starting with resource 24844, Boundary Town, ASY, Human Trafficking Prevention. Okay. I'm sorry, I'm going to pull up a couple of documents here, so maybe the rest of you are doing that too. Let me get on to Midas, so I'm making sure it's the same one that we're... And by the way, this is really hard. Just telling you guys. Maybe you guys already know that, but it's just to even go back and forth, it's kind of confusing. All right.
Chair Earl, on the motion document, all the numbers match the numbers that are in Midas, if that helps.
Yeah, I know. Maybe I'm a visual person, but I had to break it out 2, 3, right? They were broken out different, so I wanted to make sure I could correspond with what there was. Okay, I'm just going to share a couple of thoughts from Boundary Town, because I think most of Boundary Town is very similar, if not the same. And you can correct me if I'm wrong. It seemed like almost every piece was very similar. And this was the question I had, is the child sex abuse different from the human trafficking? We're approving 2 different things, but when I went through them, I had trouble. They looked the same. I don't know can we ask Lorianne to maybe, I don't know if she can address that? Is that okay with the committee? Maybe.
Can I speak to that? Again, this is Mindy Elliott, Child Sexual Abuse and Human Trafficking Specialist. When they go through our process, due to the fact that there are 6 different categories that they can submit materials for, sometimes the material is the same for child sexual abuse and human trafficking, but they did submit it separately just to avoid confusion on what was evaluated for what category.
Did you see were there any differences that you saw? That's what I want to know.
Well, this one is for adult serving youth. So this one was just, this was just adding human trafficking. So this one was just for adult serving youth human trafficking. When you get down into the other materials, then they are the same for human
Okay.
trafficking and child sexual abuse.
Okay,
Did that answer your question?
I don't know. Well, I know, I really don't, because it seemed like the beginning of all of these they were the same. And yet the lessons, when you got to the kids portion or the student portion, seem to be the same on the other ones, but the whole top half, is it the same? That's my question.
I believe what was done was, sorry, Tanya Alberno's coordinator for prevention. I believe what was done is they had submitted the materials that they would need in order to fulfill all the requirements for human trafficking, but it's integrated into their currently improved material for child sex abuse prevention. So basically, it is the same material, but they integrated the pieces that they needed to in order to pass the minimum standards. Does that make sense?
Okay, but they're all the same. Am I right in saying that? Like the whole first 10 pages are the same on, I don't know if it's 10 pages on all of those. It appeared to me, I just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing anything.
Laurie Ann Thorpe, Prevent Child Abuse Utah. So yes, but
Okay.
we do already, it gets confusing because we already have a current approval for child sexual abuse,
Right.
adults serving youth. So that one's already done. So this was adding human trafficking to it. And then it does start to look a little similar. We want to be consistent in our messaging regardless of who the audience is, although age appropriate. So yes, there are definitely similarities, but because of the way that we have to submit for approval,
Okay.
there are some subtle differences.
I just
but
wanted to make
nothing-
sure I read the first one very thorough, and then I got to the others, they looked, you know what I mean? They
Similar,
looked the
yes.
same. I just wanted to verify that I wasn't missing something, so.
There are
Okay.
different requirements for each one, so that's where you'll see differences.
Okay. All right, I think that's it on that one then. Is there someone that wants to make a motion to move that one forward?
Well, I had
Go
a
ahead.
question on Boundary Town. I noticed in a couple of places, and now I can't find, I'm looking at the rubric documents, but there was on pages 19 and 32 of the slides, it has like 4 little asterisks, and it says, if a child gives the answer that they might abuse because they were abused when they were younger, let them know that this is not often the case. A lot of times when children are abused, they grow up and choose to teach their children differently. And then nothing is cited on that. I mean, I know we want to teach from the positive with children and let them know that they're safe spaces when they've been abused and to talk to somebody trusted. But I do know that there are statistics that show, you know, if you look at prison records and things, that often children who are abused do grow up to abuse. And so they need help and interventions, which is why we're doing the training. So I just wondered about that caveat in there, if you could explain.
Board Member Britton, are you referring to the elementary students
Yes, it
curriculum?
was
Or are you
in-
referring to the adult serving youth curriculum, or all
Well,
of them?
It was in the youth curriculum.
Okay.
And there was a place where it was on page 19 and 32, and now I can't find, I should have kept that document open, but with board meeting yesterday, I didn't. I need to, let me see.
Okay, I do, in regards to your question, I do want to clarify that it is in the board-approved minimum standards, that is in the training, that children who are abused do not always grow up to be abusers. And that is why I'm guessing many organizations have put that into their materials. There is also quite a bit of research that has been done to show that that's true, that children who, it's not always true, and it's not even something that happens frequently, that children who are abused grow up to be abusers.
Right. Is it in, because I guess I'm more worried about like the adult curriculum and how we're training adults. I mean, this is a reason why it's so important that we have these kind of trainings to provide interventions and find kids who are at risk and being hurt, right? So I recognize that. I just wondered, is that something that we need to be mentioning to children in the classes, like about cycles? Is that part of the standard?
it is part of the minimum standards currently. So what would need to be done is if you want to reconsider that, somebody would need to bring the standards back to the committee.
Okay.
And to amend those and then take those to full board.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Okay, so still looking for a motion for 24844, which is the adult serving youth.
Do each of these? We can't do like.
No, you're gonna do each.
Okay, so I will make a motion that we, where is it? That the committee,
It's the top one there.
okay. That the committee approve 24844 Boundary Town ASY Human Trafficking Prevention. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, and then I'll make a motion that the committee approve 24846 Boundary Town School Kids K through 2 Trafficking Curriculum.
I have a couple
do we have
comments on,
discussion?
well, I have a discussion on this one. I just have I have some recommendations and then a couple of things that I would like to see personally changed. My recommendation is slide 10 come before slide 11, and slide 13 come before slide 14. And I can tell you why. It's just a structural thing, and it's teaching the definitions prior to actually having a story presented. So if you can teach the definitions of secrecy, what secrets mean or don't mean, that type of a thing, prior to giving the actual story, kids will be thinking about it as they get to the story. So it's just a structural issue. I think at least the organization can decide if they are interested in that.
Is that a motion, Chair, or is
Yeah.
that a recommendation?
It's just that one's just a recommendation. And I have one other recommendation and then a couple and then I have a motion. Another one is on slide 39. I would just recommend, there's a question around what happened to Oscar's mom. So it would be good to just create closure for students if students knew what happened to Oscar's mom. It's just a recommendation if you want to do that or not. Then the other one is on, this one would be a motion that on Angel in the scenario, what happened around, in the scenario, it's confusing the language that's used. It talks about a boy and another man. So you've got Angel, not another man, Mark or something. And the language in there is there and them. And it says they talk to their parents. And it's confusing. Is there meaning both? Are these boys related? It seemed like they're not related. So the language in there, I would make a motion, it needs to be his or cleaned up so it's not confusing. So. And this one would be a formal motion on that one, that the language be clear. If they want to use Angel's name throughout it or whatever, so.
So Chair, that's all right, Board Member Green. Chair, I just have a quick clarification from staff. So we'll provide these recommendations to the organizations as you make them. And it would be helpful for us to know if you want us to come back to you with their response for the recommendations as well as the motions.
That was the idea, right?
Okay.
Is that any recommendations were made, they can either say no,
Okay.
yes, whatever, or, that's the way we'd like it, so,
Thank you.
Can I have a piece of clarification?
yeah.
Okay, will you look at what I typed? So, in the Angel and Mark what
Scenario.
scenario?
Let me see if I had. And I think that's it.
Is that accurate now, Chair?
Let me look.
10 and 11 on there.
10 and 11.
I recommend changing the slide.
Yeah, I've got
Yeah,
that on
you got-
this
okay.
list over here.
Just let me make sure real quick. Yep, that's it. Okay, so
This right here is the motion.
do you want to read it out then, Joanne?
Okay.
What you-
There is a motion, Member Earl's motion is to, in the Angel and Mark scenario, sorry.
Sorry, I'm trying to think if I have one more. I actually do. This is why I was asking on those three. I was trying to figure out what, are the next three items the same? Do you know, does that make sense? Like the three curriculum items are,
Are you asking if this needs to be changed? in all
yeah,
three of
that's
the
why,
items?
yeah.
It seems like, yes, they would. This would need to be changed in all three.
Okay, and I do have one more after this.
So the age level, child sexual abuse and human trafficking materials are the same. So where it says K2 human trafficking, that is the same as the K2 child sexual abuse, and so
Right.
forth for the rest of them.
So I guess my question is that is slide 10 the same in each course, right? Is it the scenario the same in each course?
No, not necessarily. We use different examples for the age groups. So it may only be in there, but so if there's some way to word it so that it says wherever it is in any curriculum, that might be helpful.
Okay, that's what I probably need to do then.
Need to add that.
Yeah, just,
If they are the same curriculum, should they not just be listed together?
There are different minimum standards for child sexual abuse and human trafficking. So some organizations chose to submit them separately just to ensure that they would be evaluated for both.
Okay.
okay. And I do have one more.
Hang on,
Yeah.
please.
So anywhere in Boundary Town, maybe that's the way of phrasing it, right?
Does
Or-
that look like what you want?
Yeah, that would work. And then on page number 14, section 5, instead of using acronym LGBTQ+, using sexual orientation or gender identity.
Instead of using the language LGBT
Acronym, yeah.
acronym,
Yep, putting in sexual orientation or gender identity, that's the language we use in law. And I think that's the same on every one of those again, so. Mhm.
Okay, is that correct? Is that your motion?
Yes. Yeah, that would be it. Okay,
Okay, the motion before us is in the Angel and Mark scenario, change the them language so it's not confusing about who it is being talked about whenever the scenario appears in any Boundary Town curriculum. And on page 14, section 5, instead of using the LGBT acronym, use sexual orientation and gender identity. Those in favor?
aye.
Motion passes 4, 1 nay vote, Member Reel.
And I'm thinking, I think we would just need to pass the others referencing that motion, right? Because that's why I was asking about it being similar throughout.
Yeah,
If it applied.
I believe we'll be able to accurately communicate.
Okay.
Plus, she's here, so.
Yeah. So. Okay, so, let me pull those up then. So the other boundary towns. So I make a motion to approve 2, 4, 8, 4, 7 with any recommendations that have already been passed. 2, 4, 8, 4, 8 with any recommendations that have been passed. 2, 4, 8, 4, 9 with the same thing, and then 2, 4, 8, 4, 3. Wait, okay, that's just, oh, sorry, I was confused there. And then 24842 with those same recommendations, if they overlap into those areas. So, now go ahead, Board Member Wood.
Sure, Earl, I just had one question on 24849. In page 22, there's a reference that says that this is the same as Katie's story. Katie was in the K through 2 curriculum, but I couldn't find it in the 3 through 6 curriculum. So, so this would just be a recommend to check to see if whether or not it's referencing a story that still exists. It's not really a motion, just a recommendation to make sure
Yeah.
those align, because I just couldn't find Katie in the story. It's on page 22.
Okay. Does that make sense? Was that clear enough that someone could act on that? Okay. Any other board?
On-
Oh, yeah.
On page 22.
Question around Katie. Did it correspond with a story that was used there? In other words, it asked questions about Katie?
Yeah, it just
But
says,
Was the story,
it says this is the same as Katie's story, and Katie's story is not in the 3 through 6 curriculum that I could find, so.
okay. Seems like someone understands what to look for, so. As long as it's clear.
Well,
Okay.
I'm trying to get to 22. It just says, it is okay, explain. We are going to read a book called Not in Room 204. It is a story that is similar to Katie's story.
Okay.
But Katie's story was in, like, they had it last year. I'm just not sure that they're going to
okay.
remember who Katie was a year later.
Okay. So however that needs to be, so it's correlated correctly. Okay. All right. Grab my glasses again. Where did I put them? Okay, so the motion before the committee is to approve, we did 246, right?
Yeah.
To approve 24847, 24848, 24849, 24843, 24842, and to address the Katie situation. So Katie's story is referenced, but Katie's story is not found, if they can make sure that that correlates, and then also to make sure that any of those other items from the previous motion are addressed throughout, any of those that would replicate that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Okay, that passes unanimously. And then we're to, this is the Barbara Sinatra Children's Center Foundation. Oh, Lawrence Kids. Okay, there's just one, I see. So it's just a different color code. Okay, so the Barbara Sinatra Children's Center Foundation. Is there any comments or recommendations on this one?
I just want to make a comment that I thought that those were so well done. I really appreciated those, and we'll share those with people in my sphere. Like, and I wonder how many schools are using that. Are these curriculums, I'm guessing they're sent out statewide as options for schools?
They're available.
They're available.
We provide a list of approved materials, and then schools or LEAs can go to that list and choose the ones that they want to use.
Okay.
And I just want to make sure you're referring to the Barbara Sinatra ones.
The Barbara Sinatra, and those are free online for anybody to access. But it looked like they were just YouTube videos that anybody can go to the website and get the materials. And for the public to be aware, I just think those are a great resource to
Yeah.
teaching children,
As long as you approve them today.
as long as we approve them. So
Yes.
I would recommend and speak in favor for approving those.
Okay, would you want to make that motion?
So I will make a motion that we approve the Barbara Sinatra Children's Center Foundation 24831 Elementary School Child Sexual Abuse Curriculum.
Okay, is there any other discussion to this? Okay, the motion before the committee is that the committee.
Everybody's.
Okay, sorry about that. The recommendation is that we approve Barbara Sinatra Children's Center Foundation 24831 Elementary School Child Sex Abuse Resource. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. That passes unanimously. Okay, and then Lauren's Kids is the next one, and they had a modification. We didn't approve them last time because of a concern over a particular scenario of showing up in a student's room, just out of the blue. That just kind of went the opposite of the whole point of doing human trafficking, and they went through and did edit their video so it didn't have that particular item in there. So anything else you want to say? Does any staff members want to say anything, or?
They've just been very willing to
Okay.
make changes, and they did redo that whole fourth grade curriculum per your recommendations.
Yeah, well, it was just that little piece. The rest of it's the same. It was just that video piece, right?
They adjusted a few things,
Did
but
they? Okay.
Yeah, mhm.
Okay. All right. Is there someone who'd like to make a motion or a comment? Did you have a comment, Leanne? Okay. Looking for a motion for that?
Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve Lauren's Kids 24834, Safer, Smarter Kids, grade 4.
Okay, so the motion before the committee is that they approve Lawrence Kids 24834, Lawrence Kids Safer, Smarter Kids, 4th grade. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, and then the next one is we're going to talk about one. I'm not going to make a motion for it though, but it's the Vector Solutions, was one that was recommended. But this would be specifically, hold on. Can you please tell me, this is confusing. Are we doing the 78-minute one, the 15-minute one, the 14-minute one? This is listed as the 78-minute one, and that is not, someone to help clarify for me.
So this one is evaluated based on the alignment rubric that they sent in that includes like the PDF of their slides. When you go to their website, I believe what happened was they submitted materials during our last cycle for adults and for parents. Those were approved, and it looks like the same assignments are still in their online system when we go to log in. So I'm assuming that that's what happened, is they just left that portion there and didn't adjust or input like.
Okay.
So we have the script and the PDF.
So there
We don't
were
have
two.
access to.
There were two items. The first one was the 78 minutes. Board Member Wood said she was able to watch the 14-minute one, so I went back in and was able to watch the 14-minute one. And it was under, if you went under the second resource, not the first resource. And I went under the first, thinking they were the same. So are they asking for the 78 minute? Is that their request? Because there's two items listed there.
So I did reach out to them for clarification
Okay.
on what they would like us to review for, because we only review materials for elementary school. And she said that the first submission, which would be the 24835, I don't have the times, the 6 through 8. Those are the ones that she wanted evaluated for 6th grade. The rest of them, she submitted just to show us what they were doing, but we don't evaluate or review those.
So was that the 14-minute video that they want approved, or the 78-minute video? That's where I'm seeking some clarification.
So just give me 1 second.
Yeah,
to
you're
look that
you're
up.
okay. Let me go back in again too.
Chair Earl, the concern I have with the 14-minute one is even it referenced being in high school. So I don't think it even aligned with the 6 through 8 yet.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
would recommend that this go back to the vendor and have them resubmit to us. I mean, if they wanted to resubmit, if we do a special meeting to clarify, but that we can't actually look at what's been submitted is not accurate for us to clearly preview at this time.
Yeah, I would agree with that. That it's not, yeah.
Yeah, I think at this point, what we're seeing is that the reviewers reviewed the PDF only, not the videos. And so it seems like we will need to go back to them.
And I
if
would
that's
let
the
them,
desire
because I
of the
did
committee.
review the PDF as well as there is a 14-minute video that corresponds with the PDF, but it's in the second piece. That's why I was trying to look at the numbers here.
The reviewers did not review the video, so it does seem like we'll need to go back
Yeah,
to them
okay.
and seek clarification.
But just so that you know, even on the PDF and on which corresponds with the shorter video, not the 78-minute one that they're listing here, it does seem to be for a more mature group. So if you want to I did review the content. I just want them to know that I felt like it was not really 6th grade content. It was more like, it was 9th to 12th grade, and it was great.
Yeah, that is why they only reviewed, because the content, the videos that you're talking about were submitted under the 9 through 12. And so we didn't even have our reviewers look at those materials. We only had them review for the script, which is the PDF of like the slides. So the videos weren't a piece of what they were asking us to submit for. So it was just the PDF.
So how
of
would
the
they
slides.
deliver it?
It is meant to be delivered.
Is a person going to read the script?
Well, there is an online course, but we didn't have access to that. We only had access to
Okay,
the
this is
script
not ready
the-
for us. So,
Yeah.
okay, all right. Okay, we're going on to the next one. So the Asian Association of Utah, is that still in? So it's the resources 24838, 24839, 24840. So that's kindergarten, 3rd and 4th and 5th grade. I don't know if there's any comments anybody has. I have one, but go ahead, Joanne.
Well, in the K through 2 curriculum, if you look at the PowerPoint, there's just on slide 18, it says what to notice if Simone isn't safe. Someone isn't, I think that's supposed to be someone. So there's a typo on slide 18. And then also on slide 24, the slide says what you can do is the heading, and then it says remember, semicolon, and what you can do, semicolon. That just seems repetitive. Maybe some rewording there, like action, or, could it say, I think they should clean that up. Yep.
Okay, and then on each of those, I think it's slide 3, it says respect privacy. Then on the next grade, it's protect privacy. Then on the next grade, it's keep it safe. It says what we talk about here stays here unless someone's safety is at risk. I don't think we can do that. Like, say you can't talk about the contents of this class outside of this class. It's the opposite of what we're trying to teach kids to do. We want them to be talking about what they learned at home. We want them to be talking about so it's a confusing message, and they shouldn't be sharing, according to law, stories about themselves being abused. That's not an appropriate age appropriateness in a classroom. So they just need, I'm not sure why they have that set there, but to me, it can't be in there. So it's slide 3, and it's in each one of those. So it's slide 3 on each one of them, each of the grade levels. It has a privacy thing. It's like what protect privacy, what shared here stays here. Keep safe, what we talk about here stays here. Respect privacy, what we talk about here stays here. Yeah, yeah. So I can make that as a motion that on slide 3 on each one of these, that they address the idea that the content cannot be talked about outside of the classroom.
Maybe it's a sensitivity thing, that the content is talked about with your safe adults, with your identified safe adults, but they also don't want to disclose in a public setting that puts a child at risk.
That the content cannot be talked about.
Outside of the classroom. What's talked about here stays here, is the language they use on all 3 of them.
Sure, is that a motion or
That
a
is a
recommendation?
motion.
Okay.
This is an official motion for me. The others are recommendations, but obviously without those, it doesn't make sense, right?
Yes.
I mean, Simone instead of someone, so,
So this one is a recommendation.
yeah.
And it's also the 3 through, it's the next 3 through 4 curriculum. That slide 18 is the same.
Gotcha.
But slide 24 actually is worded differently where it makes sense. or it's
So just on a recommendation on
it's
slide 24.
27.
27?
It says like, what now? Taking action and seeking help, and then it says remember and what you can do. So the slide in the K through 2 should reflect what the slide in the 3 through 6 says, probably, or 3 through 4, sorry.
Am I, okay, sorry, I think I got
Sorry.
confused.
So-
Let me make sure I'm following you.
So in slide 18 on my first one, it's the same in the K through 2 and the 3 through 4,
Got that.
that those need to be fixed.
Okay.
And then the other slide, I think, was at 24, where it was repetitive, and it said, what can you do at the top, and then what can you do again?
Slide 24, there's a repeat on top and bottom.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But slide 27 in the 3 through 4 is this same slide, but it's actually worded correctly, I would think as they intended. So maybe they're,
In the 3 to 4 in the grades, 3 to 4 curriculum, it seems to be worded correctly.
mm-hmm.
Okay, is that accurate now, Board Member Brenton?
Yes. And it's slide 27 in the 3 through 4 curriculum, where it's the same slide but worded correctly.
Okay, gotcha.
Seventeen.
27.
Sorry, yep.
It's page 27, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Now, and is your motion correct?
Yeah, my motion is
Okay.
correct. Yep. Okay, is there any other discussion to these items? Okay, so the motion is that we approve the Asian Association of Utah 24838, 24839, and 24840. And there's a recommendation that Simone be changed to someone on slide 18. There's a recommendation that the slide 24 be simplified. There's a repeat. Okay, and then they can just check there. And then motion on slide 3, each grade level curriculum addresses the idea that a content cannot be talked about outside of the classroom. Will they understand that if it's written that way? Okay, okay. And I think that's it. Did I cover everything?
So you're including her recommendations in your motion?
Yeah.
Okay, let me copy and paste, hang on, or cut and paste.
Yes. Go ahead, Board Member Green. Well, I think we're going to decide whether we're going to have bring this all back to next board, our meeting, or we're going to have another board, standards and assessment meeting to address it. So in just a minute, we'll let someone make a vote one way or the other on that, and then we'll move forward from there. Does that make sense? Okay. All right, all of those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, those are 4 in support and 1 opposed. Board Member Green's opposed. Okay.
And Leah, it actually said Simone. It was SOMON on the slide.
Is it capitalized?
Yes.
SOMON, like that?
Yes. I think that's what it said.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and so the question becomes, committee, do we want to have a committee meeting before the next board meeting to review this, or do we want to just bring it back to standards and assessment next month?
I don't love extra meetings, but if with that deadline that you explained that they have, I don't want to hold back any work that they
Okay.
need to do or things they have planned. So I'd prefer to have even if it's just a virtual.
I think we could easily do virtual,
Yeah.
and then it would probably be about an hour is what I'm guessing. I don't know that it would be more than that.
Special
Okay, so the motion then is to have another committee meeting before the next, to ask leadership is what we'll have to do. To have another committee meeting before the next board meeting, and then I guess we'll just try to coordinate that. I know November gets kind of crazy, but
To approve,
yeah, to
to
approve.
review the changes.
Yep.
Yeah, okay,
And
recommendations, yeah.
Okay,
Okay, I've noted that.
all right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so that's how we'll handle that then. Does that work? Okay.
Could I make a motion, I don't know if this would be a motion or a recommendation too, that we have an easier process where we could sign a document once a year maybe that just gives us access to review materials? And
Member Britton, that was raised with me as well, and I did
Okay.
review it. And my recommendation is that every time the cycle comes through, because there's different submissions from different organizations, that you would just fill in the form, because we can't anticipate who would be submitting. So I know that you've done it for other things, but for this particular situation, with other instructional materials, that's what we have had other people do as well.
Okay. Okay, I think we're done. Thank you. And we are going to take about a 10-minute break. So go stretch your legs. Go for a little walk, go grab a drink. So we're going to take just a few minute break. going. I think we're ready to get started. So if you want to let Jerry know we're ready to go again.
Yes, psychological messages.
Okay, and Board Member Brinton's going to be down shortly. We're going to go ahead and go to, are we on? Yeah. Okay, we're going to go ahead and go to action number, or 2.4, which is an action item, R277-716, alternative language services for Utah students. It's an amendment and a continuation. So really, this is the 5-year continuation, but there's some amendments to update language. And who's speaking to this? Jennifer, are you speaking to it?
I can do an introduction, but we
Okay.
also have, I think, Dr. Estrada
Okay.
is in the room, yes. And anyone who would like to come to
And
the
Megan
table.
Lopez,
Thank
too,
you.
if you wanna
Megan's
come
here
up
as
and
well.
then- Yeah,
Thank
go
you.
ahead.
So essentially, it is a 5-year continuation. We have updated some of the language just to better match code and to match relevance. If there's any question about the amendments. We also added an
okay.
oversight category of 4.
Okay, do we have any questions, any comments on this one? Let me pull it up on my agenda down here. I didn't when I went through it. It's just cleaning up the language, is that right? Yeah, if you want to speak to it really quick, I don't know if there's, yeah.
Yeah, I would just like to say to everyone publicly that this has been the greatest honor of my life, to actually work with schools really closely in classrooms, principals, superintendents, and the kind of instructional change that I see happening in the last 2 years is really phenomenal. So we should all be very proud of what's happening in schools.
Thank you. Thank you. And it is a privilege to have you in our state and working in the capacity you work. I appreciate you using instructionally sound practices to do the things that help benefit kids. Okay, if there's not any further questions, I am interested in a motion.
Do that.
Okay,
I move that the committee continue and approve R277-716, alternative language services for Utah students, draft 1 on first reading and forward to the board for continuation and approval on second and final reading.
okay. The motion before the committee, unless there's any questions. Okay. The motion before the committee is that the committee approve R277, let me find it here, 716, alternative language services for Utah students, draft 1 on first reading and forward to the board for continuation and approval on second and final reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that passes unanimously. And we will go on to to number 2.5. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Okay, so this is R277-700, the elementary and secondary school general core amendments. And I think this is specific around our, the changes this last year for civics education. And if you want to, are you our person, Megan? Okay.
Yes, so Jennifer Wadsworth, Policy Advisor. Dr. Newey is in another meeting. So I have Megan Everett in the room with us, and I believe Kathy Gray had to jump offline. So we have all questions for Megan. So essentially, we've had a change to the timeline that is in 700. We've changed from 9th graders to 10th graders, moved that up. And we do have a proposed motion that we are hoping a committee member would be willing to add. It's there on the screen. But we need to amend lines 289 to add 2 new subsections, subsection C and D. C would allow for up to 0.5 credits of school-sponsored activity or verbal communication as long as it meets those 3 criteria to count towards those credits in civic education. And then section D would specify that if the LEA does allow for those credits to be awarded, they need to show how those meet the standards. And I know that Megan can speak deeper to that.
Okay. Yes, go ahead, Megan, and if you want to introduce yourself.
Sure. Megan Everett, Director of Teaching and Learning. The reason for these 2 amendments, the first part is to satisfy the part of the bill that asked for that specifically. So Representative Welton was interested in being able to use other courses, such as things that focus in civic debate, to address some of the standards that are in that course. And then Part D, the reason they would include that is because the writers, so they were identified through UVU in the legislation that group through UVU as civic engagement would be writing these standards. The way that they have taken the law and broken it down, they want to make there's not a way to pull out just one little civic debate and say any civic debate could cover that. They just want to make sure that the standards are still being met if somebody is taking a different second half of the course.
Okay. Any questions to this particular item here? Yeah, go ahead.
So how would an LEA document that? Is that something, would they have to require a waiver, or they just have it in their files, and if someone questions it, you have to tell us how you did that?
What we would propose is doing something similar to what the CTE and art section is doing currently, where if you want to get CTE, if you want to be able to count a CTE credit as an art credit, you need to show how you're meeting the art standards. So they just put those standards on documentation and say that, affirm that they're meeting them, which could be done with like a syllabi or anything like that.
Okay. Are there any other questions maybe to the recommended addition here? Anybody have questions to that? Okay, and so when we make, someone approves it, if we could add this to it. I have one question and maybe an amendment. When I went back through the law last night, just to kind of double check things, it indicates, okay, so what line are we talking about with the social studies? What's the line number? Oh.
289.
289. Okay.
Could I ask a question? I'm just wondering how a school-sponsored activity could add up to 0.5 units.
I think that's where we're asking them to affirm that the standards are being met. I believe that that's intention to think about coursework such as a debate class or activity such as a debate class.
Okay. It is just an activity, right? Literally. Like half of a credit, right? Good question. That was a good catch. Thanks, Emily. Yeah, okay. So my question has to do with, in the law, it says that they'll have a credit, a whole credit in American constitutional government and citizenship. Someone help me here. We have it listed only as a half credit. Help me understand, is there some nuance that we need to add to this to make sure we're...
I can clarify that. So when this was first passed through legislation, it came to Robert Austin, who has since retired, and the hope was that there would be flexibility allowed for the LEAs, that the one credit would still be required. However, separating it into two half credits would allow for students more flexibility in their schedules. So by graduation, there is the full credit that's required. It's just broken into two halves. Correct me if I'm wrong.
You're correct. The other idea being there that we were adding this on, so they need to get the entire credit of the course. They could potentially take it maybe in the spring of their junior year and the fall of their senior year, whereas typically a school schedule would put the entire one credit together in the same year.
So could we word this differently? Because it really only indicates that there's an American constitutional government and citizenship half credit. Even though it's American constitutional government and citizenship full credit, but could we instead of, so I think, is the other half credit being considered, it's the U.S. government and citizenship? Is the other considered whole to this, or not really? What is the other half then? If this is the half, what's the other half?
Yeah, so the way previously students were taking a half-year government credit.
Yes.
This added in this requirement for constitutional government and citizenship, so a little bit more. I think the way the writers have interpreted it is they need to take this entire year class. What they have done is said, well, if you are going to replace half of it, as Representative Welton indicated he wanted to have, then we think you need to take this kind of first half, or take these they have 5 strands that they're working through. You should have that document today or this weekend.
Oh, thank you.
So to see. But they have these 5 strands, and they said, well, if we have to split it, we would suggest these first 3 are foundational to government and understanding and those things. And these last 2 are focused in that civic debate, citizenship, things that you may be able to meet in another way by having debate that is focused on that requires the kids to actually still engage with the standard and research the content, but then be able to talk about it or interact in some other way. So the way the writers interpreted it was, yes, ideally you would take this entire year class. If we have to allow you to take half of it in some other way, we'd still want you to meet those standards.
I'm wondering if, so is that other half or the original half supposed to be U.S. government and citizenship? Okay, so this is what I'm thinking. I'm wondering if 4 actually says that's the Utah constitutional government and citizenship credit, and maybe 2 half, and like we would and could constitute 2 half credits, according to the provisions in our rule.
That makes sense to me.
I don't know. Do you see what I'm saying? Because really right here, you're saying that there's 2 separate courses, but we're not saying that. In law, it actually says it's one course, and these are the provisions in that course. So now when I look at this, I'm like, there's the provisions in that course, but then what are the provisions of the U.S. government and citizenship? What is that course? Is that an additional half credit on top of the full credit for the American constitutional government and citizenship?
I think what you're asking for, if I'm understanding, is right. I think you need to take 1 full credit in American constitutional government and citizenship. Yes. Half of that course credit could be met with one of these activities if you show you're meeting the standards.
So is there a problem if we substituted the American constitutional government and citizenship in and put it as a full credit and then indicate that it could be 2 half credits, right?
That's okay. Is that?
Sorry, Jennifer Wadsworth,
Yeah.
Policy Advisor. I think the only thing that would change was the intent that when it initially came to USBE of allowing that flexibility at the LEA level. If we specify that it's the 1 credit but 1 half could be used, then only those students who are participating in the school activity or debate would have that flexibility. Everyone else would be held to the 1 credit. It would not be able to be separated. Is that?
You have to provide it 2 different times.
Yeah, just in terms of the connection, if it's 1 credit, it happens 1 school year, there would be no.
Right, but
Yeah.
what I'm saying is if it were put on the line and it said it's 1 credit, or you were just indicating, or it could be 2 half credits based on these provisions in the rule.
Yes.
The only reason why is I think we're sending this message is that there's this American constitutional government and citizenship course, and then there's a U.S. government and citizenship course, and I don't think that's the case. I think in 2026, 27, there's actually for those going into, are we trying to accommodate 2 groups, right? Is that what we're doing?
A lot of this is just to accommodate folks that are taking debate. Like, that's pretty much it.
No,
So
no, no,
it's-
no, no, no. I'm saying that the kids that are graduating in the next couple of years will probably still graduate with U.S. government and citizenship, so we can't really take that out. But then the American so eventually we're going to need to strike that, and it will just be the American constitutional government and citizenship 1 credit, and then with the provisions for both credits.
If that is the direction that the board would like to go, it does alter the ability to separate that class. So if the board.
But if we put 1 credit, but maybe.
So this recommendation gives more flexibility to separate.
This recommendation does.
Yeah.
But if the board wants to look into that, we can work with staff to try and figure out a way to allow for the description of the course as one credit, but with an allowance to divide it.
Yes, that's what
So
I
it would
would
essentially say
prefer.
the same thing, just a little bit more layered.
But we've got to wait till that U.S. Constitution government's not any longer a provision. Is that
Which is
what
the timeline that we are trying to fix today.
Right?
Yeah.
Because we've got to still have that title in order for it to be usable. Am I making any sense? Maybe I'm not making any sense to anybody. Okay. The only thing is that American Constitutional Government Citizenship course is literally a credit now, not a half a credit. So that's where the confusion is going to come in.
And if you look at the existing rule on our website, it does appear as if it's 2 courses. So there is the 0.5 in U.S. government and citizenship, and then there is the American Constitutional Government. So if the board would like that to reflect one course that can be separated, that's wording that we can work on.
Okay.
Because I agree with Chair Earl. Right now, it appears as if it's only a half a credit and we're not aligning with law. So if we're confused, then anyone else is going to be confused. And the worst thing we need is for the legislature to be confused that we're not
Yeah.
following law.
And then that's where I'm trying to go, is the U.S. government and citizenship credit being used for that other half credit? I wonder that, is there a way to then put up there and say this, oh, I don't know. Maybe we'll have to think on this a little bit for a board, huh? Because it looks like 2 separate courses.
It does currently look like 2 separate courses in the rule. And if you look at it comprehensively, those 2 courses make the one required by law. But if we'd rather have more adherence to the law or have it more transparency of adherence to the law, then we could alter it to just be the one course with the provision of separation.
Okay. And Director Everett, you said that they've finished, we'll get the rough draft of the okay. Those should somewhat be similar to the U.S. government and citizenship current course, or are they dramatically different? Do you know?
I don't know the current standards well enough to speak to
say
that.
it, okay.
What they did do in the draft that you'll receive is they took the provision of the law and put the standards that they developed beneath it, and the provision and the
Okay,
standards.
okay.
So you'll be able to see what pieces
So maybe
they were
we'll-
trying to address with each set of standards.
I don't remember. There was time. This one's time certain, but we could always have it come back if we needed to. Okay. All right. I'm good with where we're at. We'll have to just maybe address it next month.
Yes.
I echo that same concern. I feel like how do you even show that you've done a half credit's worth because debate is so varied. You're covering all different kinds of topics. So I'm not sure how it would cover the same scope and give the foundational civic engagement and government policy type analysis that the bills that we're trying to give our American students in Utah.
So if I'm understanding, and then you can correct me if I'm wrong, and I think it leans into what you're asking, is that they would have to provide, what's the word there? Shall develop, or sorry, it says Leah Voorhees over it. Just move it down just a little bit. You're good. Describe, I don't know what's the word. Oh, document. So they're going to have to document, there you go. they're going to actually have to show how it meets the standards that we've approved, right? In the debate, otherwise they can't count it. Okay, I don't know if that answered, does that answer your question a little bit?
Well, and can we add in some kind of clarifier, like in, what would that standard be to show that they've done enough to get a half credit?
We're approving those next month.
Okay.
We're approving those next month, I think, or at least they're coming before us in the next couple months to be feedback. It's these standards for this course. Those should, I think if I understood right, they should be out either this weekend or the first next week. So. Do we need a clarifier on that it would need to be a course during the school, or not really? I know this is law because this was put in and we're just putting provisions of law, but is there a qualifier around that? I think it's a fair question.
It is a fair question,
yeah.
and it's a very good point. The trick is that because it's codified that it's just a school-sponsored activity or course, I'm not sure that the board could qualify that. But I know that Representative Welton is always open to working with the board and collaborating, so maybe that's something that we need to request of him to clarify.
Yeah, you could. And I do know there's a couple of little cleanup things he's doing on the civics piece, so that would be maybe do we want to have, I guess we could ask, right, the committee could ask staff if he would clarify that or make sure. Okay. So, okay, that's Board Member Green's concern. I do think we needed to, even if this amendment, if we were to, can we wait on this at all? This one, the amendment.
So the proposed amendment can wait, but the
We need the
timeline,
timeline for the other to move
which is
forward.
the amendments that are
Yeah.
before you today.
Okay. So the key thing, Board Member Green, is, and if we want to wait on this amendment and bring this back maybe in January, anybody feel like that throws us off with, okay, and bring it back in January? And the reason why is so that we can get some clarification. Board Member Green, maybe if you wanted to reach out with Representative Welton and touch base with him on that, or even staff members. And then, what else was I going to say? Oh, and then by then the standards, we'll have some idea on the standards. So, yeah, we might have a little bit more clarification there. So maybe I guess I'll leave it up to the committee if we want to hold on the amendment and then just make sure we move the other forward, because he would like to see it start to be implemented next year for sophomores, so that in 3 years, it's not 4 or 5 years down the road that kids are actually starting to take this, that it's starting sooner than that. So, okay, any other discussion? All right, I'm looking for a motion.
I'm just wondering, is there a way could we word 286, 287, so consistent with, so we have world geography, world history, U.S. history 1.0, U.S. government and citizenship 0.5, does that, clarify to me, does that go away? Because then it would
That's
be
what I was
until 2005, 25, 27, and then American Constitutional Government Citizenship 1.0, and then sub-bullets where we line, this is what it is for this year, this is what it is for this year. I know it's clunky, but it would
It would be
align
more-
with law.
that's what I was trying to say.
And it would
Yeah.
read better, like, here are the things you have to do. Put the dates in.
Yes.
Work your magic.
I'll let Dr. Voorhees.
Oh, so,
work her
okay, so what
motion
if we
magic.
did this? What if it was U.S. government, and we just put until the year, right, on that first one, and then
Yes.
the next one has a qualifier?
Yes,
on
but
it.
I do want to just ensure that the understanding is these are going to go from 2 half-credit courses to 1 course. So the flexibility that is currently in law will become 1. And if that is the board's direction, I just want to ensure that that's,
Well, we would say 1 course with the flexibility that half of that credit could be
okay.
used for provisions.
Then yes.
Okay,
Yeah, the total is the 1.0, just like we do with, I mean, social studies 3.0. That's not 1 class for 3.0 credits, or arts 1.5. That's not a 1.5 class. So I think that we show in the rule already that a 1.0 does not necessarily mean that it is a single 1 class. But through the sub-bullets, we would then define how you can get to the 1.0, and it would be through U.S. government citizenship while it still exists. It will be through a constitutional government class. It will be through this magic debate credit. And
so I'm wondering if we let this item, like, you can work on it a minute, and maybe we pull up something to, do you know what I mean? I don't know about the next item. Are you introducing the next item, or is Elise? Okay, so can we just maybe postpone this for right now? Or set it on the table, whatever you want to do, and then we'll go to the next item and then let her work on that, so that we're not trying to work, okay. All right, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to move to 2.6 action item R277705-2, secondary school completion and diplomas. And then we will come back to the other in a minute. We'll see if we can kind of work through that. Okay? And Deputy Superintendent Voorhees?
Thank you, Chair Leah Voorhees, Deputy Superintendent of Student Achievement. So the purpose for this rule change is to define the words "the most significant." Okay, that's the purpose. Okay. In a 20 U.S. Code 6311, which is section 1111 of the Every Student Succeeds Act. Okay, so we're talking about ESSA now. Specifically subsection B2D and B2DI, we need to define most significant. So those 3 words appear in ESSA law, and we need to define them for Utah. To this point, we have not done so, and let me explain why, and why we need to do it now. This section requires that states only assess less than 1% of their students with significant cognitive disabilities on the alternate achievement standards assessment, okay? And if you remember last month when we talked about, 2 months ago, when we talked about the alternate standards for science, remember we talked about the standards for students with significant cognitive disabilities that are reduced in depth, breadth, and complexity, but that align to our standards. The law requires that we assess only less than, which is weird wording, but 1% of students with significant cognitive disabilities on the alternate assessment. The alternate assessment, if you remember from that previous conversation, is called the dynamic learning maps. Okay. In the spring of 2025, for the first time since ESSA passed, Utah assessed more than 1% of these students on the alternate assessment. So previously, this has never been an issue for Utah because we were always under the 1%. In spring of 2025 was the first time that when we look across the entire state, we are assessing more than 1%. So we were non-compliant with the law. Okay? The Department of Education will now put a condition on our Title I grant as a result of our non-compliance. So our recommended response to that condition for the Department of Education is that we define those 3 words, the most significant cognitive disabilities, to give LEAs more specific guidance about who are the appropriate students to assess using the alternate assessment. And that is the purpose of the recommendation to the rule change.
And can I ask one question?
Please.
Did those students previously qualify that were above the 1%? Like if we had 1.8, were all those students met the qualifications according to what we had in place? Or maybe we don't know.
Yeah,
oh, okay,
correct.
okay. That's why if we were defining
Yes.
it, and then you've got to be very
And
specific.
then
Okay.
we will,
Okay.
and then we will give LEAs the opportunity.
Just so students not testing
Yes.
certain, okay.
Yes,
I see.
and then we have a monitoring process currently for students who take the alternate assessment, it is required in law that when an LEA assesses more than 1% of their students, they have to provide, we give them the information that they assessed more than 1% of students, and they have to send us back a letter outlining their reasoning, a justification of why they assessed more than 1%. And to this point, when we aggregate all of the LEA's number of students, the state has not exceeded the 1%. Some LEAs do, right?
Okay.
But when we aggregate, the state has not. So in 2025, that was the first time that statewide we went over the 1%. Some LEAs throughout the implementation of ESSA have exceeded the 1%, and by law, we give them that information, they send us a justification. We have a monitoring process so that we ask them to look at every one of their students that took the alternate assessment. Did the IEP team determine that this is a student with a significant cognitive disability? What we have not required is that they in their monitoring process and in their justification, they tell us that the students taking the alternate assessment have the most significant cognitive disabilities, which is the language in the law. Previously, we've only asked for the justification that they have a significant cognitive disability. That's why we would define the most. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. Yes, and I guess there's 2 pieces. If we do have kids that would qualify that went over 1%,
Yes,
then we
cannot tell an IEP team that that student does not qualify. That is not the role of the state.
Right.
What we can tell an LEA is, you have more than 1%. We need you to justify. We need you
but
to
what
look
about
at
us to
every
the federal
student.
government? Do we need to ask for some kind of a waiver? That's why I'm wondering.
We can't. We cannot ask for a waiver, and the reason is because the law specifically says that you have to have 95% or more of your students taking the test to ask for a waiver, and because of our opt-out in Utah, we do not have anywhere close to that. So a waiver is not a possibility for Utah.
Okay. Any other questions? Sounds a little heavy-handed.
This is the way we're going to respond to the condition that
Yeah.
they're going to put on our grant.
I mean, I think it creates clarity for districts too, though, right? To make sure it's just not anybody so I'm good with that.
We're not going to tell IEP teams what to do.
Right. Okay. Any other questions then? All right, I'm seeking a motion, if we can do a motion on this.
I'll go ahead and do that. I move that the committee approves R 277705.
Yes.
Is that where we're at, -2? Secondary school completion and diplomas, draft 1 on first reading and forward to the board for approval on second and final reading.
Okay, the motion before the committee is that the committee approve action item, Rule R 277705-2, secondary school completion and diplomas amendment. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That passes unanimously. Do we need a little more time? Okay, she's not here, so. Yeah, Matt, Winters, if you don't mind. You
Thank
ready?
you.
We're working on a little more time for something up here, so this is so we're going down to 2.8 information, AI and education update. And we're just getting a background here, and I'm sure we've got a few questions, so.
Can I just first give a shout out to Matt for, he spent some time with me this month giving me an AI lesson that was super helpful, and I meant to mention that yesterday and I didn't, so I just want to say thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much, Board Member Britton and the rest of the board. I really appreciate that. Today, just sharing some basic AI and education updates over the last couple of months. So first off, number one, some policy updates. USBE, through me, has been working through with the Office of AI Policy. Their director, Dr. Boyd, is actually here today. He's been working with me on some regulatory mitigation plans for the last 6 months. Basically, this would act as a document that either we as an agency could sign with the Office of AI Policy or individual LEAs could sign in the event of a of the AI being problematically used or creating problematic results. And it will allow the Office of AI Policy to step in and work with the company on mitigating those issues regulatorily. So it wouldn't come back on the LEA or on us as an agency. It would go to the company, and it would force them to, in essence, work with their tool set to make sure that it's actually doing the appropriate actions that it needs to be done. These are just advisory documents, although one can be signed by USBE if we would like, that would blanket the entire state, or the other one could be sent out to superintendencies or teams at LEAs where they could sign it individually with the Office of AI Policy. I have copies of both documents. The originals are with the Office of AI Policy and are still in their folder. These are copy documents if you'd like to look those over. Number two, we, over the last 6 months, have been working with a very finely tuned team of district folks, higher ed, students, teachers, and agency specialists around what are the knowledge, skills, and dispositions that a student or a teacher might need to thrive in the world of AI. And as part of that process, we created 2 documents, a portrait of an AI-infused learner and a portrait of an AI-infused educator. These are aspirational documents for when a student would graduate from high school, and for a teacher a few years into their career to really understand what are the things that would help them to thrive with artificial intelligence. It has things that we've already considered as an agency to be valuable skills like creativity, critical thinking, but then also things like prompting, data security, and privacy. The documents are up on our schools.utah.gov website, and there's a lot of community excitement because we are the first state to really get to a point where we're able to think about this level of kind of integration of skills and thought processes. Number 3 is just some updates on our IHC grant, Intermountain Healthcare. We have a $500,000 grant that we've been running for the last year, thanks to former Chief of Staff Sarah Young. The program at this point has been very successful in a lot of layering. First of all, we've trained over 5,600 educators across the state of Utah with at least 1 hour of AI literacy, data privacy, and basic tool understandings based on their LEA's tool sets. Over 1,500 educators have opted into a 3 to 5 hour Canvas course that extended their learning, and over 500 of them have completed that course and have been paid through Donors Choose for their work and some lesson plans that we have asked them to create. Based on estimates, last time I did Donors Choose, we have about 31,611 students that have been impacted by the funds that have been distributed, which is very exciting. Now, those are teacher estimates, but that's just very exciting for us with the grant. The course has been retooled because we no longer have the trainers that we were using to go out and do these face-to-face. So it's been retooled into an asynchronous course that will run throughout the rest of the year until the funds are fully dispersed. So any teacher across the state in a publicly funded school will be able to take that course and work with it. We also have an upcoming white paper that was co-authored by Wynn Shooter from our USBE data team on the efficacy of these professional developments, and so far the preliminary results are pretty extraordinary in terms of what we're seeing from teachers and their viewpoints on it. We also were able to use some of the funds to do leadership training. It wasn't originally in the grant, but thankfully the evaluators we hired, they were interested in doing some leadership training, and so we were able to provide 2 sessions to Utah districts with over 150 leaders, school leaders, to come out to those trainings. And then also I was able to last week work with our Utah charter schools to do work with over 60 charter schools and their leadership teams to start developing policies and frameworks in their schools. And then the last thing, we are looking, because this has been a very hot program, to possibly look for some round 2 funding and things like that coming up. And I have a couple grantors that are really interested in supporting this. And last thing here, USBE did hold their AI summits about a month ago, is the 7th and the 9th. These summits focused on special education, gifted and talented multilingual learners. They were very well received, and we had some national folks that came out and joined us. The consensus is one of caution, optimisms, and educators see significant potential for AI in enhancing personalized learning, efficiency, and creativity in the classroom, but they also have concerns around academic integrity, data privacy, equality, and the need for systemic report. Those are directly comments that were synthesized from AI, from their comments. So I just want to put that last paragraph is directly from their comments. I took photos of every post-it note that they gave us comments on. It was about 390 of them, and then fed them to an AI through photos, and was able to synthesize all that into a report that's about 7 pages. Yeah, that's my update.
Board Member Green has, Vice Chair Wood. I tried out you, and then I have a couple questions too.
I have a question for you in terms of regulations. We've been pretty good at flexible. Here's some proper uses. Here's some prohibited uses. We've been kind of hands off. At a recent national training that we were at, there was a presentation delivered from another state who is using AI in a way that is concerning to me. It's very much about assessing those kind of dispositions of efficacy, resilience. They're giving kids numbers that kind of reminded me of the China social number that you see, they're walking around. Are we at a point where we need to consider regulation like that to make sure that those types of uses are not being used in our state?
This has been a long, thank you for the question, Board Member Wood. This has been a long-standing question in educational technology, period, to kind of understand the efficacy, but then also the appropriate uses of these, especially when we talk around regulatory issues. So right now, there is not a large-scale federal initiative around regulatory regulatory issues around educational technology. Utah does, I would say, a better job than most other states looking at this, especially with support of things like Director Chalice and the team over in student data privacy, but then also, thankfully, again, we are the only state that has an Office of AI Policy. As we know, with our school networks and our school computers, that's where the barrier ends for many of our districts, and they can control what happens on those devices or strive to. And thankfully for the Office of AI Policy, we're able to get into regulatory effects that help our students when they become consumers on their own devices work these things through. So the long answer is that, but the short answer is that there are some concerning issues around this, and that's something that at the federal level hasn't necessarily been addressed yet. And so there are efforts across the country right now to look at the efficacy of and the regulatory issues around educational technology.
Well, my concern would be,
go ahead.
My concern would be relying on the federal government. I mean, both with the politicalization of Congress, they're not getting anything through. You go through the informal rulemaking process, and you've got, the technology, before it even starts the comment, 30-day, 60-day comment period for rulemaking, it's already changed.
Yeah.
So I think the state is the place for these kind of things, because this other state was super excited about what they're doing. They're helping their children get more scholarships because they score higher. And so I think a state level is a more doable level, but I guess I'm still waiting to see, do you think we as a board need to step into that?
I think it would warrant more research and more understandings around it. Right now, where a lot of this is couched out, and why I bring up the federal government is there should be some regulations coming down, but currently that's been unsituated. Where a lot of it sits is with national nonprofits really thinking through this, but those can be either adopted or not adopted, depending on local control and states' rights. And so that's something that I would love to discuss further.
Okay, and I guess mine kind of comes along that same line because we've seen some of those elements in Portrait of a Graduate that are soft skills, right? Or they're things like just that, creativity, curiosity, gratitude, respect, and these entities are using AI to interview students and measure their gratitude. It's really creepy, right? I mean, first of all, I think we differ from day to day. We're human. That's the key thing, right? And some days we're here on the gratitude level, and some days we're here, and it's this idea that a machine's going to measure those, and then it's going to tell someone else how grateful you are or how creative you are. And it's so dehumanizing. And I think we've already leaned into that in a, not in an AI way, but we've leaned into that where those outcomes, we do want outcomes, but it's how you get those outcomes, and it's a byproduct of sound education leads to cooperation, creativity, those kind of things. And I think we kind of missed the mark in trying to do these peripheral things versus the things that we really have control over. But I have that same concern that we may have people reaching into that and vendors saying, oh, well, so-and-so's using it, so now this will speed up our ability to, whatever, measure your social emotional capabilities to engage with others. And what's that? Your grit, your perseverance. When in reality, we know that, you could leave this room today and go, we all will vary by the time we get home, maybe even by the time we go through traffic. We may not have any grit by the time we get home. So it's just a really interesting area. Anyways, what else? There was one other thing I was going to say. Oh, white paper, that's interesting. We've got a white paper coming out. That should be interesting to read. That's all I had. Anybody else?
Can I speak to one thing that you just said that I think is very important? When we talk about those durable skills and these kind of larger questions of how AI may be assessing a person in a context that's non-academic, I think that's a really interesting conversation. There are some pushes around artificial intelligence towards that, where I'm seeing a lot of hope, though. And again, I'm pointing to Dr. Boyd over here. His organization really last year focused on mental health chatbots, bots that were designed specifically for mental health providers. And now there's legislation around that, and that's that came down in the last legislative session. This term, they're looking at companion chatbots, and I think these kind of issues, when we see those kind of conversations happening, there needs to be a larger conversation, not just around education, but around the consumer as well. And I think that's why it's so important that we have my role and our role here at USBE, but then we also will partner with organizations to really think these things through, because otherwise, as you point to very aptly, they could sideswipe us in problematic ways.
Yeah, I think we're seeing that already in ed tech companies, right? Where we loosened a few years ago with FERPA that, third-party providers, and all of a sudden everybody's a third-party provider. And the research we did is evidence that, they can claim something or maybe not even claim something, and then they can sell the data or allow access because they're the third-party provider, but the fourth-party provider now. So it's just really being aware of things and kind of keeping the humanity back in things, so we're not losing, what we're here. The intent of it is to help humanity, and yet it loses humanity, so we have to be careful of that. So
I have a question. There are some things that have come to my attention this last week within our district, and I think it's probably statewide and maybe even a nationwide problem when kids are on school devices and they're on the internet and they're playing games. The types of ads that are coming in are often not appropriate. And I got some really concerning one sent to me this week, and I know Washington County's taking it very seriously. They're going to look at maybe just shutting off games during educational time. Is there a way that AI can be utilized to more safely filter, like have something set up through the district so that at that local level they can be filtering while students are on the internet doing research and playing appropriate games?
That was great question. Thank you so much, Board Member Brenton. I will say filtering is more of a cybersecurity question, and so I would defer to our DTL team or Jeremy Zabriskie on our student data privacy team. Although I have heard of some situations where AI could be leveraged to do that, but I need to do more research to answer that question.
Okay. Oh, yeah, go ahead. One more.
I just have one more comment. I also want to give you a public shout out because I did the presentation at NASB this last week representing what Utah was doing, and most of it was what you had shared with me. So thank you for helping me be successful and making Utah look great.
I'm very happy to help Board Member Wood.
Okay, thank you. I don't, unless Board Member Green, I'm not hearing anything from her. Thank you. We appreciate you coming today. So, okay, we're going to go back to our action items. Sorry, math. We are returning back to 2.5, which is R277700, the elementary and secondary school general core amendment. We're wondering, did you have a maybe possible solution or not? And if not, we can.
So Jennifer Wadsworth, Policy Advisor. After speaking with staff and getting more details about the many nuances that this is going to create, we would advise waiting to see the standards and bringing this back in January. So moving forward with the timeline, if possible.
We'll do. That's great. We can do that. We'll just know that discussion will continue in January. No, we do need to, so that we can let districts know that 10th, yeah. So, do one of you want to make that amendment? I think you could add that on so that it comes back in January, but we need to move it forward because of the change that's in there now, so that they can start next year.
Okay, so how should I?
So just word that the recommend that committee approve this, and then just ask that it come back in January at the end.
Okay, so I will make a motion that the committee approves R277-700 elementary and secondary school general core draft and bring it back with recommendations to come before the board for approval on second and final reading in January? Or no? Oh, we'll just move it forward as is with a recommendation to bring it back
in January.
In January.
Yep. Okay, the motion before the committee is that the committee approves R277700, the elementary and secondary school general core draft 1 on first reading and forward to the board for approval on second and final reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I'm going to it after.
Okay.
I'm gonna add the committee part after that that we approve it to move forward the way it is, and that, sorry, I shouldn't have done that. I thought I'll just make two pieces because it's two separate pieces, but.
Which makes it easier for board meeting.
Yeah, it'll make it a little easier for board meeting. So it's move this the way it is, and then I'll make another motion in just a minute to bring it back. It's the other half of what Board Member Brinton said. Is that perfectly unclear? Okay. Okay, so did we vote? Did we vote? Did we say, all those in favor? Yes? Okay,
Yes.
let me read this again. So I'm going to break it into two motions. That the committee approves R277700, the elementary and secondary school general core draft 1 on first reading and forward to the board for approval on second and final reading. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Okay, so that there's one no, Board Member Green, and 3 yeses. It will move forward. And then the second motion would be that R277700 return back in January with the proposed possible amendment that we discussed that didn't get put in the draft, and then also possibly looking at the timeline, or the class credits, right? The class credits. Is that accurate?
Just to clarify, the amendments that are being brought back are to the credits.
I thought, but we didn't make the amendment today to the course.
Exactly. Yeah. So the course and credits will come to be.
Course and credits.
We're on
sorry.
the same
Okay,
page.
we are. Okay, so let me just state that again, possibly. Did we put it up there somewhere? that R277, 700 be brought back to committee in January with the proposal to discuss further amendments to the course and credits. Okay. Any discussion? No? Okay, do you have a discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that passes unanimously. And we are on to 2.7.
Just a quick clarification, point of order. Motion's passed 3-1 on that first motion. With
Yes, it did.
member
Did it
Real,
not get-
yeah, member Real absent.
Oh, yeah, member Rail was not here.
Oh,
Sorry. Yeah, that's all right.
make sure you get that right.
Don't want to forget, she stepped out of her class responsibilities. That's all right. Thanks for pointing it out, Board Member Wood. 2.7 is this an information item. It's R277419. This is Pupil accounting. And we're going to try to divide our time up here a little bit. This will have some, I think, quite a bit of discussion. So we're looking at, we got 30 minutes left, right, roughly? You guys, well, let me ask committee. 30 minutes? How much do you want to commit to this? So 20 minutes maybe on the one, maybe 10 to 15 on the math. If we went over a little bit to 20 on the math, then, so we'll go 20 minutes with this. Okay. Okay. Would you like to, policy and analysis?
Jennifer Foster,
Yes.
Policy Advisor.
Advisor.
So this is a discussion item. We are not asking for any action at this point. The internal attendance audit requested that we look at this rule to find discrepancies or things that the board feels like could be clearer that would better match what we're trying to do with attendance. We do have here in person our attendance team. We also had a representative from data. Oh, he's there. Hello. And I believe we also have finance as well. So the document that's provided to you in backup is tentative feedback from staff where changes could be made. The definitions in particular to this rule, we are hoping you can spend some time on really discussing the definitions. We know that there have been some proposed legislation. There has been some proposed legislation that is looking at possibly setting their own definitions. So we're hoping that the board will be able to decide where you would like this to go. Where does the board stand on this? So that is the purpose of this item.
Okay. Committee, how would you like to proceed? Maybe that's the... Yeah, go ahead. Could you give the line number again?
278.
Okay.
I think, am I correct in remembering in the attendance audit, it was showing that there were days such as ACT testing, where only juniors were at school taking the test, but everybody was counted as being in attendance, even though other grades were home. That there were things like that that showed up in the attendance audit. So I think this would speak to that.
Yes, and my understanding again from staff is that it is required that these plans are made, but we don't necessarily have it assigned to staff to ensure that those plans are accurate and being held in open and public meetings. That would be incredibly helpful.
Is that not currently on an insurance document of any kind then?
Okay, so what, I don't know, does anybody have a recommendation? go ahead. Do you have an answer for that?
I might ask the committee if they would allow the attendance team to speak to this.
Oh, yes, please, please come up. Or anybody that feels like they've got the, we can see Aaron coming. Aaron's our data guy, so just introduce yourself if you, whoever wants to speak to this, so.
Aaron Bruff, the Director of Data and Statistics. So, can you restate the question succinctly so I can answer it? Because there's a lot of things in there. I apologize. Okay, to answer that exact question, no. I am not looking for additional things to be developed. Now, let me pass it over to the attendance team, see if they want to counter that.
Megan Menlove, attendance specialist. No, but there are a lot of questions when we are meeting with LEAs, especially when we're talking about attendance rates and chronic absenteeism rates when it comes down to total instructional time and days. Those are questions we get a lot, and there's not a lot of clarity for us to give back to the LEAs is what I would say. So are we seeking clarification? Yes. Then there used to be the 990, as you guys all know, and since that was removed, now there's a 180-day requirement, but as we're going through calendars with LEAs and trying to set up attendance things, there's a lot of times those 180 days are not being met, and that was also pointed out in the attendance audit. So that is the clarification, is if there isn't an instructional time, even a day, like instructional day, there's not an actual time for that either. So we get those questions a lot as we're working with LEAs. Does that answer the question, or just add more questions?
Board Member Green, did that help, or do you have additional questions to ask? Okay, we have another follow-up question on that. Board Member Wood, Vice Chair Wood.
Can you help me understand why the 990 or the 180, or why that instructional time? Because it seems to be a sticking point. As I was on law and licensing for 2 years prior to this, and we did all those 4-day waivers, the time seems to be, it seems like that would have been such an easier way to go, because then if it's a 3-hour school day, it's a 3-hour school day. Like, can you help me know the history of that change? Because it's prior to me.
Aaron Bruff, Director of Data and Statistics, again, to answer that question. So it's a complicated question. Ultimately, it comes down to is how do we calculate for funding is what determines that. So there used to be, again, this is pre-pandemic, where you had the 990 rule and the 180, and you had to meet both of those. When the pandemic happened and we had to make rapid adjustments, the 990 hours was repealed temporarily by the board and then removed. I don't know if it's permanent, or we'll say temporary. It was just removed. And meaning the calculations then for, again, the student WPU is worth 180 days. And so that's what the LEAs submit. Again, we're talking systems and we're going through system changes. So the current system, the UTREC submission that we have to receive right now for the calculation of the 180 days is based upon that number, not the hours, if that helps. And so when we do the calculation, it's the ADM, the annual daily membership calculation. What happens is the LEAs or the record comes to us and they would say, of 180 days, what is that percentage that the student was there? If they were there for 180 days for membership. We're not talking attendance right now, because there's two different things. If they had a 180-day membership, then they got basically 100% of that WPU. If they had anything short of that, because the membership was shortened, they transferred, or they're part-time, so whatever it is, and then they get a portion or a calculation of that. So that's why it is set on days, because it's a financial purpose calculation that you need to put in there. So then if we go over to the attendance, it's a different discussion and issue. So there is another model. I'm not suggesting right now that we should tear up everything and go to that model, but you have the annual daily attendance financial model that some states use as well. Two models, they present two different problems and two different solutions. So the 180 days is the reason why we use that one. Again, going back when hours were important, and really historically, for example, when we say it's important to make sure you have all those hours inside of there, that was well before the days where we could do online programs, where you could do the validated learner program, different approaches of determining are the students engaged in learning the information. So because of flexibility was added, the 990 hours was relaxed and then removed. So that's kind of the feedback. And again, what's driving the need behind it is two separate things. So if we're talking attendance, that's one answer. If we're talking, hey, we're doing this for membership calculation, that's another, because those two are not perfectly aligned. Hopefully that answers the question.
Okay. Looking for some other discussion items here. I guess I'm looking down at 410, specifically where it's requiring us to, total clock hours of educational services for which the student was enrolled during the school year divided by 990 hours and then multiplied by 180 days. And my question is, do schools keep track of the hours that kids are in school? So how do we get an accurate reading on that, right? I guess that maybe that's why it's here, right?
That's why it's here. So again, Aaron Bruff, Director of Data and Statistics. The answer behind that is, I'm going to say it depends on the LEA and the SIS system that they're working with. I don't have a view directly into their SISs to say, does this one track the actual hours?
So if they say day, you count.
They submit to us day, that summative record. They don't submit to us the hours. Attendance, likewise, it gets complicated because you have class attendance, which could be they're tardy, and then they showed up. They could be they missed a period, but they were there for the rest of the day. Those are some complications on what do they submit to the state on attendance. It's a bigger aggregate number based upon the day, not upon those periods, where elementary schools typically, again, depending on the custom of the LEA in the elementary schools, do you take attendance once, do you take it twice in elementary, depending on, so on and so forth. So a student, so sharing, again, it's complicated. It depends upon the SIS.
Is the 990 in law, or is it just our rule that creates?
That's our rule.
If we took that out, does it make it complicated to still find the amount that districts, or does it uncomplicate it to do that, if it's just the days?
In my opinion, uncomplicates it. My opinion.
Okay, so
But
that's maybe
there's multiple facets when you look in there, because now we're talking about instructional time. What does that mean? Because if someone says a day, I was there for 3 hours, and then the power went out, or a snowstorm came through, or something else, like a lockdown happened, we can't do anything. Just sharing, there's some complications. So you say, do you count those? What do you do?
Yeah, but
there?
before, were you, I'm just curious, were you before counting 2.5 hours?
In the past, there was that calculation where they had to do makeup days. So if they missed a day.
But it was still days, it wasn't hours, though. That's what I'm trying to figure out. It still wasn't, yeah.
At the state, they had
Okay.
to do those makeup days, and so that's how they had to adjust those to do like Saturday
Okay, so
sessions.
that may be a good place to look, right? To maybe modify something there to make sure, and maybe we need to run some calculations or something, just so we make sure that it's how it's impacting or not impacting. Maybe there's not that much impact, it's just more work on our end to try to figure out that, okay? That would be a good spot. All right, you're making note, okay.
Could I ask a question? I just wonder, how do we compare to how other states do this? I'm sure, is there collaboration across the country with how states are doing it, looking for clarity and simplifying? Is our tax code just so, anyway, just curious.
Aaron Bruff, Data and Statistics again. Wonderful question. The answer is it's complicated. We got, and I'm sure the attendance team's going to also answer this. So the answer is we do go to meetings like you on a national level and figure out how we solve problems and how people are doing things. The answer is it's wonderfully complex and everyone thinks that they're uniquely different. And then we go to these conferences and we're like, hey, we're all the same. We're all wrestling with very similar problems. For the data part, just sharing primarily the issue is the policy of how do you pay for a student? Do you want to pay attendance or do you want to pay membership? And it kind of falls down those two lines. What are you doing? So sharing is how are other states doing that? It kind of depends on what model their government is set up, saying this is how we're going to fund our kids. So that's on the collection side, and we do have discussions on how to improve and make it better all the time.
Follow-up question. Do any of the states look at grade completion as far as being an accredited learner, having passed the course and having high marks over attendance with membership?
Aaron Bruff, Data and Statistics again. And the answer is yes, and we likewise, on the learner-validated side, there are those models, and it's usually, if you look at a state, there's a blending of how to do that. So again, what we're doing in Utah is it's either tracking the attendance, the student is here because they're completing the work and they're showing competence, and the LEA has put that in the policy. We've got that. Or they're saying, they're here. You know, when they say, Mark, I'm engaging with you. The complication, again, talking about what Utah does, we have a 10-day, if the student is absent, you've got to find them or you're dropping them from enrollment. Other states have similar processes. They might have a different time frame that they work with. Again, our 10-day rule, again, unique to Utah, but when I talk with other states, it's not that unique because they've had similar problems. They might have a different timing on it. But likewise, other states are also looking at what's the difference between competency, tracking of attendance, engagement, and actual physical presence, and using that as when you use the word proxy of engagement. So we're careful not to compound what we're trying to do on these, because again, it's finance and it's also engagement time, if that helps.
I don't know if you want us to talk about other states as far as attendance, give you just I know we're almost out of time, but we spend a lot of time collaborating with other states, trying to learn best practices from them. A lot of states have adopted a common SIS system, and then we've also met with states that are setting common attendance codes. We were in a meeting a couple weeks ago with a state that has 42 common attendance codes, and I was like, I can't even imagine trying as my background is in school administration, as an administrator trying to figure out 42 or something. It was crazy. And we're like, okay, that's, one way that other states are trying to really like hone in on why kids aren't coming to school. When the data comes in, those are absences regardless if they're excused or unexcused, right? So but they're also reported individually by every LEA, individualized. So that's there's a lot of, when we meet with people, they're like, so what's this district doing or what this school is doing, even learning from people in our own state. But those are also being reported differently to the state. So that's part of
one of the things that we really feel like needs clarification in this 419 is just the reporting of the data. Because for us to work with the schools in the best way possible, getting data that is clean.
So when you're saying the reporting of the data, you're asking who will oversee it, if there's a corrective action, or who's monitoring it just in general?
Just monitoring it, like the data coming into the state, but also the data, like we work with, I mean, we just did a training, we have cohorts that we work with, where we're trying to help them with their data, but everybody's doing different attendance codes, so everybody's doing different attendance data.
I'm wondering, because a lot of this is about the monitoring, and the monitoring, the part that's hard with the monitoring, that we're not able to require the data, but the data collection when we learned in our data audit, the same issues, it's like all the 508 piece, right? So, because like when you talk about 42 different codes, I'm thinking, they missed first hour, but it was excused. They came for half of first hour, but it was excused. Whatever, like there has to be all these things, and it seems like they have 42 because they have an absentee problem as well, and they're trying to understand exactly what the absentees are, right? So they're ahead of us, because they're to the point where they can now track it in a way, because they have a way of collecting that data, because they either have a more organized data collection or one SIS system. And so with 508 and the recommendations there, there's going to be either one SIS or whatever the legislature decides to do this year with that. It almost seems like we'll know better all these pieces that are unclear about monitoring once we've solved our SIS issues, and we'll better be able to write the rule based on whatever our new system is going to look like.
May I?
Yeah.
And just to respond, so the LEAs themselves have a much better view of what's going on in attendance. And to give you a very just simple example, when we do some research here at the state and we look at attendance and then look at achievement, for example, we have to collaborate, and that's not a bad thing, I'm just saying we have to collaborate then with the LEAs themselves saying, okay, this is our finding, and then they can go in and even deeper disaggregate down to the class period and get that information. It simply has to do with the level of information that the state receives and what the LEAs do within their SIS. The SIS is much more robust. The state ourselves, we have, again, a subset of that information. So just sharing, if we say, well, we, the state, have to solve the LEA's problem, say, well, the LEAs have a lot of this information. What we're trying to make sure is, one, going back to the audit, compliance to what is required. You have to have correct documentation. And that's part of the issue. It's like, if you mark someone excused, do you actually have backing, or does someone just push the button?
Yeah.
And that's kind of part of the issue that the audit, I'm just sharing, the audit found, where it's like you don't have documentation, hence that lowers, reliable expectation. The information you're sending is correct. Can you actually prove that your information is correct? And so that's where the audit's at, but I just wanted to make sure.
Right, like there could be an LEA that actually could tell us the majority of our absentees are because students were sick with excused. Like
Yeah.
they might be keeping that data, but at a state level, we don't have that
don't have that
comprehensive
level.
data to make
Yes.
to understand, which goes back to Member Green's question even at the beginning, like we need the data to make those decisions at the LEA level, but also at the state level in order to tackle absenteeism. So I don't know, is there a
Okay.
timeline on this? What I'm asking is
Well,
because.
there's a time limit today.
Well, I know that, gosh. So
And we're
militant.
past the time limit.
Chair Earl, so militant. Okay, so, because if not, I mean, there's gonna be so many changes
Can I
to
make
this
a
once the
recommendation?
508 is done, yes.
This is
Well,
what-
this was just
well-
informational today.
Yes, but it will be coming back next month. If you have additional recommendations, you can reach out to staff on it. We may continue to move this down
I'm
the road.
just saying, it's gonna completely change after the legislative session when we have our SIS piece figured out. That's all.
Okay, so we're just saying if there are some if you want to make amendment, wait till March, we can do that. Or we can, I think the idea is maybe engaging in a way that we can advocate for things that we want done. Or if there's things that we need to change that are just in the rule, like the 990, right? Those may be things that we can clean up front that are cleaner for our staff and for LEAs. So if you have any other recommendations, please reach out to staff or someone that can help you with that. And then we'll have an action item, but the action could be, as Board Member Real said, it could be just continue to move it to March. But there may be some provisions where like, okay, we could do these 3 things in the meantime. So, okay. So once again, we're just going to move this to next month. It's information, but it will be action item next month for everyone. Thank you for all your responses and everything. Appreciate your time. Our last item is update on math standards revision. And go ahead, who's ever going to present today?
Come on. All right. Molly Basham, Early Learning Mathematics Specialist, representing the math team this morning, still morning for a few minutes. We wanted to provide our monthly update on where we're at in the standards revision process. We have been working with our writers over the month of October. They have been diligent and tireless trying to get through the pages and pages and pages and pages of public feedback. We met with them for the full day in person on October 28th and 29th. And they did, during those 2 meetings, finish reviewing all of the public feedback. We have since met with the secondary side of the writing committee on November 5th, and we'll be meeting with them again next week and then again in December to finish making edits and changes to the draft based on that public comment and discussions that we've had in this committee as well. So I'll let Mike speak to the changes that are still happening in that secondary space.
Okay.
Yes,
and there was a lot of comment, right, in secondary space.
Correct.
And Utah State University submitted a whole portfolio, right? I mean, yeah, so go ahead.
Yes, Mike Spencer, the secondary math specialist. And yes, there's just been a lot of time spent going through and thoughtfully considering the comments about honors and the comments about the AGA pathway. And so that's really where we're at right now with the secondary space. After looking at the comments about honors, they did make a decision to say, hey, let's go add in some clarifying standards or some honors standards in for Math 9 and Math 10. But
Thank
really,
you. Thank you. I'm just saying that out loud.
and really with the focus on going deep, because they still didn't want it to just be breadth, but being very intentional about thinking how to take those standards deeper into the content that's there. So that's part of the work they're working on right now when they meet on November 10th. And then also that AGA pathway, they are working to really get those standards cleaned up around clarity and everything else before we start moving around into the AGA pathway, just so we're not duplicating work on those things. The other part is in the pathways conversation. There was feedback expressing concern around the calculus pathway and how dense that is. Is that appropriate for every student that wants to go into a STEM career? So the committee chose to include an additional pathway, which is essentially our current integrated Math 3 course minus the extended topics that exist, and say let's prepare students just to go to Math 1050 or pre-calculus and not try to jump then clear to calculus. So they're defining a set of standards there that will be very similar to the Algebra 2 course when it's compiled and put together. So those are the changes that the secondary is working on right now. So they just have, because there's a need they're writing brand new standards and not just revising. It's taken some more time to get through those.
Okay. Any other comments? I have a couple, but
I'll just say I appreciate the work and your patience with us and going back to the drawing board. It's really appreciated from feedback that I've gotten, and I met with quite a few of my superintendents, and they just said they have kind of felt pigeonholed into very few curriculums to choose from because Utah standards have been so narrow and we're a smaller market, so people don't necessarily create curriculum just for our market. So I appreciate that we're widening and looking at alternative paths, and thank you for that. They seemed appreciative of that as well.
Just a couple things at NASB last week. Just an FYI, Louisiana Department of Education actually has a early numeracy screener that they've been developing over the last several years and put a lot of time in. As we're looking at something, we may want to look into that too. What was the other thing? New Jersey not New Jersey, Maryland just updated their standards too. So, I mean, we're seeing it around the nation. I know I've heard a couple of times that, well, from a lot of people, Utah's doing really good. Well, everybody else is up in their game too, right? And if we're just like, well, we're doing good, we're fine. And I don't think that's the case, right? This idea that we're good, don't change anything, we're fine. And yet we know we have kids that are still not meeting that. Other states are, and we're doing that too, they're aggressive at saying, okay, this is, if we're just going to remain status quo, we're going to be behind in a few years because people are aggressively thinking, how do kids learn math? What's the best way to move forward? How do we create clarity and continuity in our standards? So anyways, I'm just throwing that out there. Just the other thing is just, once again, the more I kind of reading and learning, it's clarity, right? Clarity, and I think that was emphasized there, clarity and clean, so that it's no question. If you have a teacher that didn't go through, math is not their thing, but the standards are so clear that they didn't have to be a math major to figure out how to do third grade math, right? And that they can then be successful even if they didn't have that expertise, and that we can help build in the structures and supports that help them strengthen that. So, okay, trying to think if there's anything else. Emily, do you have anything?
No, I think probably just support everything that's been said, and yeah, I'm excited that we are in this and making the work happen. So thank you.
Okay, and from what I understood, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that we would not be meeting with or having any kind of discussion with the math writing committee. Is that accurate?
At present.
At present, and some of that was funding, some of that was, it's not in our process, which, that's fine. We're gonna have to adhere to the process pretty strictly then, because it also doesn't allow the writing committee to come to our committee or to the full board. It's not in the process, so if we're gonna be really strict on that, then we'll need to be really strict on it. And also, there's no funding, or limited funding. If there is a need for additional funding for something, I think, if you let us know, I think the board would support additional funding if we needed funding for something, right? So just if you want to let Leah know or someone, and we'll see if we can make sure we get the adequate funding that you need. So anyways, okay, I don't know if I have anything else. I think that's it. Look at that, we're 12:03, we're doing good. Do you have is there any additional information or thoughts? Yeah.
We don't have a tremendous, I wouldn't say we have additional information. Our goal with the writing committee is to have that updated draft hopefully finished after that meeting or those meeting dates.
Okay, I do have
December.
one more thing I'm getting a little anxiety about. If these are given to us November 27th, that means I have 30 days, which is all of December. I'm sorry, I'm just dawning on this. This is making me really anxious about the holidays because really I lose several weeks. Do you know what I mean? I'm just throwing that out there. I know you guys you're doing the best you can. I would almost ask that if we're going to start a 30-day, that it at least allows us to get through the Christmas break, like January 1st is when they're back, or if they're released earlier than that, that would be great, like November 8th.
It's not likely that we'll be released. Not likely that, yeah. If it's tomorrow, that would be amazing. No, it's not likely that they're going to be released in November, just based on the breadth of the work that the secondary committee does still have. Our hopeful timeline would be right now to release it to you in mid-December after we have that additional meeting. So you would have it over the Christmas holiday in that case.
That would be great. I just don't want to do December 27th or 26th because you know what my Christmas will look like, right?
Yes,
So
we don't want to do that to you, and we want to give you, ideally give you that 30 days before the session actually starts, or most of the 30 days before that session actually starts. So we are trying to get it to you as quickly as possible. I just thought of that the other day and thought I better convey that because we may not have just if we can be discourteous on that for board members. So
I do have a question though. So that final document or the updated document, I should say, when do we get to have our eyes on this other request that we've made for traditional math?
As soon as that's going to be the piece that gets polished up right at that's the very last thing, because it relies on some of the cleanup we're doing in other standards. So as soon as that's done, I think that's going to be the last piece, and we're ready for the 30-day review at that point. So we're just, as soon as we get it processed, then it'll be shared at that point, and the documents will be ready to go.
Okay, thank you.
And our intent right now, the way we've worked through this process with the writing committee, as they've been making changes to the draft based on public feedback, we're working in Google, they've been using the suggesting edit mode so that every single change they've made has been tracked. So our plan is when we submit that to you all for those 30 days, that we
Evaluate
submit
that.
multiple documents. We're going to submit a clean version for you that's easy to read, but we will also submit a
Thank
version
you.
that has all of those changes tracked so that you can really go in and see, here's what the language said, here's where changes were made, without having to do a really cumbersome side-by-side comparison with the document that was published for public feedback and then the new document that goes forward. We really wanted to make sure that those changes were evident, because they have made a lot of changes throughout the entire document.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Anything that would make things a little bit easier. I did have one more question. Oh, maybe this is an AG question. When we get this draft back to us, can we, and maybe this is something to look up, I want to know if I can discuss this with other people or if it's only me, which I really have heartburn over. Like, I can't go out to any professionals and talk to them. And if that's the case, we need to figure something out, because that just is not going to work. Will you look into it? And if that's the case, we need to see if we can make it some kind of a motion so that we can actually have some discussion with other teachers, other, higher ed or whatever, that we can get some feedback so that it's not just good luck, team, right?
Have we
I
signed
just-
an NDA on that?
We could, or they could, I don't know, whatever it needs to be. Can you just check into that and find out what the nuances are so that we make sure we're doing it right, but also, is it absolutely no? Michelle said no, but I think some of us disagreed with that, but I want to make sure. Can you just check into that if you don't mind? Thank you. Okay, and I'm looking for a motion. Motion to adjourn. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you.